Good afternoon. I'm Mark Morial. I'm the president and CEO of the National Urban League, and welcome to the Small Business Entrepreneurship Summit. Now, the National Urban League Small Business Entrepreneurship Summit is a full day of programming, and it's geared to give small business owners of color tangible and real information about marketing, management, access to capital at this important time when all of this is needed to sustain and stabilize your businesses the most. Numbers show that due to COVID-19, between February and April, Asian business ownership dropped by 26%. Latinx business ownership dropped by some 32%, and Black business ownership dropped by 41%. In fact, between February and April, Black businesses were twice as likely to close as businesses owned by white people. We are concerned that many may not reopen. Therefore, we at the National Urban League are committed to reversing these numbers and reversing this trend. Today, we have 3 informative and yes, entertaining panels full of expert advice, conversation, and resources for you as a small business owner. Let me share with you some of the highlights. They include building a sustainable business model, a discussion with 2-time NBA champion and TNT basketball analyst, Kenny the Jet Smith, as well as Ayanna Green of UPS, and they'll talk about pivoting your business. We have a heavy-hitting panel discussion on accessing capital in the new normal. CNBC's Sharon Epperson will moderate that panel. The panel will include information on financing for those of you looking for ways to raise capital. On retailing your business post-COVID-19, on that panel, you get marketing tools from influencers who've used marketing to grow their businesses and make themselves and their businesses household names. And last but certainly not least, at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, join us for the Cocktails and Conversation Live networking session on Zoom, where you, our audience, will have a chance to speak to our experts in breakout sessions and further. Get your drizzly code from Courvoisier and listen to the DJ spinning. Black-owned businesses are essential to this nation, to our communities, and this economy. This pandemic-induced economic downturn has made that abundantly clear. And we at the National Urban League, as economic first responders, understand the enormous and disproportionate impact on Black business owners this pandemic has had. We serve to inspire and we serve to inform behind this Small Business Entrepreneurship Summit. A few thank yous are in order to the staff of the National Urban League and our entrepreneurship centers nationwide. Thank you to our sponsors, Wells Fargo, Courvoisier, UPS, and AARP, who've made this summit possible. Our partnerships allow us to expand our work and expand our mission in providing assets and assistance to Black business owners. You need help, and we want to provide it with navigating the challenges with a better roadmap and a path forward. And I can't think of a better presenting sponsor for the Small Business Summit than Wells Fargo. Our partnership spans many years, and like the National Urban League, they are committed to truly helping entrepreneurs of color. We're appreciative of their support. We're appreciative of the continued commitment to all of our efforts to improve the landscape for small business owners, especially small business owners owned by people of color. Now I have this special opportunity to introduce the conductor and maestro behind this Small Business Entrepreneur Summit. She is Stephanie Devon, a member of my leadership team and the National Urban League's Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Business Development. Stephanie, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Joining us from Wells Fargo and Company for welcome remarks, it is my pleasure to introduce Vincent Toy, Executive Vice President and Group Head of Community Lending and Investment. The group lends to and invests in communities and businesses in support of Wells Fargo's commitment to economic development, job creation, and affordable housing. They accomplish this through low-income housing tax credit and new market tax credits investments, as well as community development lending for affordable housing and providing debt or capital to community development financial institutions. Vincent oversees a national team of more than 200 doing business in regional offices across the country and has over 20 years of experience in banking and finance. Welcome, Vincent.
Hello, and welcome to the National Urban League Small Business and Entrepreneurship Summit. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I wish I could be speaking with you in person, but this virtual event is particularly fitting given the summit's overall focus, pivoting your business in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic and the world it has created. I don't need to tell all of you, but small businesses are going through some of the toughest times imaginable now that has to be acknowledged, as it permeates every industry and wide range of businesses that can be called small. But instead of focusing on challenges we all know are present, I want to instead focus on the theme of the summit, focus on what we can control ourselves. Today, you'll hear a lot of great speakers and panelists discussing the flexibility and adaptability necessary to deal with the current environment. Following that, you'll hear from two of our business development officers discussing from their perspective the challenges and how to deal with the environment that we're operating in from their perspective, followed by a fantastic panel of assessing capital in this new environment. But as you consider how to implement the expert advice, we ask you to remember one thing. The fact that you are here today is the critical first step. Though it may seem cliche, like many others, half the battle is showing up. The current environment, that willingness to show up, has more impact than ever before. It can make the difference between having an open for business sign and a closed business sign. Before considering changes to operations, logistics, or marketing strategies, it is critical to be willing to pivot in these difficult times. That spirit, the desire to persevere is as critical today as ever before. Businesses must weather through this current environment and challenges and come up with strategies to be successful. I'll close by saying that it's great to be sharing in this experience with all of you, to see firsthand the spirit that's willing to contribute to bring our small business ecosystem and, frankly, the US economy back to the great place that it was before. Enjoy the summit and these excellent speakers and panelists. And thanks again for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you. Now I'd like to introduce Wells Fargo's business development officers, Camille Simpkins and Andre Jones.
Just want to say thank you to the National Urban League for having us here. Thank you to Vincent, Stephanie, and Mark. We're so excited, Camille and I, to be here with you today and to go over and give you some great business insight. And so just so you can be aware of the agenda that we have set for you today, the first thing we're going to go over is talking about just that, insight. It's a lot of noise out there today in the marketplace, considering what's going on with COVID-19 in this environment. And so we want to kind of look at some past experiences for people who have been through pandemics like this in the past and kind of what they did to get through this stage. Second thing we're going to be looking at is business strategy. We're going to be talking about how you can pivot your business in a time like this to be effective, and really breaking it down to three parts. One is what does it mean to do business in today's environment? Number two, what has changed about your customers? That's a big deal when we look at COVID COVID-19. Customers have changed, what they expect from businesses have changed. And then the third thing we're going to look at on the business strategy is how might your business look moving forward. So we're going to discuss those things, and hopefully we can give you some ideas on how to really implement a stronger business strategy. The third thing we're going to look at is your connections as a business, right? What does your network look like? Who are the people that you're connected to? Mentors, industry specialists, and hopefully we'll help you put all that together so that you can come up with a strategy on being more effective in this current COVID-19 business environment. And then the fourth piece of this presentation is going to be marketing. We all love marketing. So marketing is a big piece. We're going to make sure that you kind of dial in on your message. Who are you talking to? Potential changes that may need to take place in your marketing. And we're going to help you put that together and also help you develop a marketing plan. And the last piece that we hope to cover today is finally talking about the money. Everyone loves to talk about the money. And so we're going to look at available resources for your business as a business owner, and really how you can kind of look at your cash flow and hopefully discover some other savings that you can kind of add cash flow back into your business. So that's our agenda for today. We're excited to be with you today. And so I'm going to kick it over to my colleague and good friend, Camille Simpkins, to kick us off talking about insight.
Andre, thank you. Thank you very much. Insight. What insight can we provide to you during this pandemic? Well, when I think about insight, I think about optimism, think about hope. And what we're going to share with you today definitely will provide you with action steps to keep you up to date. One of the very important keys to insight is having trusted advisors and know where to seek trusted information. So I implore you at least once a day or several times throughout the week to look at industry news and business trends. And some of the websites that I want to direct you to is sba.gov. There's up-to-date information there relative to industry-specific news. Also highlights and updates relative to the payroll protection program and the loan forgiveness program. What's just as important is your local business journal. There's so much fruitful information there for you to continue to maintain and grow your business. I also want you to look at the Department of Labor. There is some insight there in statistics relative to different industries. So whether or not your health and wellness or your consultative services, food services, retail, arts, entertainment, all the things that we are relying on in order to keep us hopeful and optimistic. One other I want to share with you, of course, is the Wells Fargo Works for Small Business website. There's valuable information there for you to grow your business plan. If you haven't started one, perfect opportunity for you to start, but also for you to enhance your business plan. And then last, we will share with you the Wells Fargo Resource Center. Information there will allow for you to adapt and build your business in this current pandemic. And then you want to create a system to be able to share the insight with your employees and your customers. So whether or not that's a social media platform or it's an email blast, it's very important that you remain up to date with this industry news so that you can remain optimistic in growing your business. And Andre, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Camille. And those are great steps for us to remember and to implement. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about business strategy. All right. That's a big word. Everybody loves to strategize and talk about business strategy. So I wanted to give you 4 key parts that we believe are important in a environment such as this to do business when it comes to really building your strategy. And the first one may seem simple, but it's so important, is to write down your mission statement, right? So many times we forget why we exist as a business. And we want to make sure that you understand that your mission statement really is your why we do business. Why did we get into this industry? Why did I first start this business when I started? What was the big idea that I had? So we always encourage businesses to go back to that why. Look at your mission statement, and maybe you have to tweak it just a little bit to accommodate your new why or what you're seeing in the marketplace. The second piece that we believe is so important when it comes to making sure that you have a strong business strategy is knowing your customer's journey, right? Understanding what has changed for your customers. One of the things I love to do is go get my coffee in the morning. And so that's changed. You know, I used to be able to go in and sit down and read a paper. That whole world has really changed now. Now everything's done through an app. So it's contactless, it's done paid before I even get there. And so understanding what it takes for your customer to get from where they are to you, what barriers are between you and your customers, that journey is so critical and important. And what you want to do as a business is to make sure you remove as many of those barriers as possible. And think about the value that your customer has when they think about you. What value are you creating in the customer's mind when it comes to their journey in order to patronize your business or your service? So that's really, really, really critical. So I want you to really put a lot of thought into that. And you may have to recreate some of the processes, right? You may have to take some things out and add some things in order to accommodate your current customer's need. The third thing is writing a value proposition. A lot of businesses sometimes miss this, but I think in a time like this, it's really critical and important. So I want to break this down to 4 parts that I think are really important when we're talking about your value proposition, right? How do your customers see you as a business as far as value? And the first thing is to make sure that your business remains relevant and impactful to your target audience, right? Making sure you understand who your audience is and never stop creating value to your target audience is really, really critical when it comes to putting together that value proposition. The second thing is to stay true to who you are as a company, right? Even though we're in challenging times as a country, as a nation, but business, make sure you stay true to who you are, because remember, you have that core base in your business, and you want to make sure you stay committed to not alienating that core base when it comes to your value proposition. The third part of a value proposition is stay relevant over time. We've seen some businesses make drastic change and they have alienated their core base. So they have lost some relevancy to their customer base because they were a little bit too creative. So make sure that you keep relevancy over the course of time. Once this is over, you'll still remain relevant to your customer base. And the last part, which is important when it comes to creating a great value proposition, is to make sure that there's something different about you in comparison to your competition. What makes you different? What makes you better? What makes you an easier choice? Maybe you understand your clientele better. Maybe you're able to relate to them. Maybe you send out a newsletter, whereas your competitors don't. Make sure you have that factor in your business that makes you different from everybody else. And the last piece we believe that's important when we talk about business strategy is to share your updates with your friends and your family and your employees as well. You'd be surprised the great feedback that you can get when you tell your employees about your plans. And remember, your employees also know people. Statistically, people within a company have talked about their happiness or excitement about their job through social media, 55% or more, especially during COVID. So make sure that you run it by your family, let people know what's going on. They will be your greatest promoters. They will let everybody know, hey, there's a discount at so-and-so spa, or maybe you can get 5% off. They will be your greatest promoter. So I think implementing those 4 things will really help you create a stronger business strategy during this time in this season of COVID-19. All right, I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Camille, to talk about connections.
Perfect. And we understand in growing our business, connections are so important. Andre, you bring up a great point relative to core. What is your core? Your core is your center of influence. And for most of you, you think about your customer base, but just as important, your employees, the health and wellness of your employees. But you want to stay connected to your center of influence. So, we've been reaching out to our family members and friends to make sure that they are safe and healthy. You want to make sure that you're continuing your connections. And one of the most important connections is your mentor. Your mentor took you through the process of starting and growing your business. Reach out to your mentor, talk through some of the challenges that you're having, share your insight. And when you do that, you want to make sure that you have an agenda. You want to have 2 to 3 bullet points in which you want to talk about, because, we all have time, yes, but there are so many challenges with working from home, running your business from home. So make sure that you use the time wisely. In addition to connecting to your mentor, connect to your customer base. Yeah. Think about what marketing is going to look like for you. Now, 8 out of 10 of you have had to readapt or adapt to making changes within your company. And probably one of the most sought out and useful adaptations is virtual connections. Social media is so important right now for you to reach your customer base. Tell your story. Like Andre said, what is your why? Why did you start the business? And it's okay to connect with your competitors because you want to know what they're doing so that you can connect to the client base that they're not connecting with. So social media is going to be very key for you in becoming innovative in a lot of the changes that you've had to make in your company because of COVID-19. So understand that your core is going to be the key to growing, maintaining your business, and for the most part, creating innovative ideas to be able to stay afloat. And Andre, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. And another key piece with marketing, Camille, I think is so important is, a lot of people, when it comes to LinkedIn, they don't really take advantage of how powerful LinkedIn is in this day and time. I was reading something recently that 55% increase was on LinkedIn as a result. And since COVID, they've had a 3,000% increase as far as people that are using it. So one of the things we encourage people to do is definitely make sure when it comes to marketing, being sure that they have that marketing message that is clear, that is precise, that they know their target audience, and so that people can understand exactly what to do. I think the most frustrating thing for any consumer is when the directions aren't clear, right? And I always equate it to the analogy, if you get off a plane after a long flight, the first thing you do, you look up to see where the restrooms are, but everything is very clear on what direction to go. And your marketing message should be just as clear as that. So we want to encourage you to do that. And definitely Camille and I, who are always out there talking to small business owners, we always encourage them to build a social media brand. Make sure that you are where people are, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, build some kind of presence as far as marketing is concerned. So important.
And Andre, you bring up a great point when we talk about LinkedIn. So, you're looking for that silver lining. You're looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. LinkedIn provides you with trade groups. So someone that's doing the exact same thing as you, they might be in a different market. So wanting to understand that you're not the only one that's going through these challenges. I keep saying over and over again that this too shall pass. And Andre and I both have been in banking for years, and we were in banking during the Great Recession. We all remember the mortgage crisis.
Yes.
And we had woosah moments where we didn't ever think that we would get out of that. When you talk about the dot-com bubble, when you talk about your 401ks and the 403bs, we never thought that we would bounce back from that. And we did. So this too shall pass. But you want to take as much time and energy into, reinvigorating your business, because you can survive this COVID-19. We all can survive COVID-19. And there are so many resources and so many links that we can provide you. But one for sure is Wells Fargo Works for Small Business. There's a mountain of information there that is free of charge. You don't have to pay for any consultative services, because right now, your bottom line is so important. So please seek out information that is available to you, that's at no cost, complimentary. And Andre and I and the Wells Fargo family, but more importantly, the National Urban League is here to help you get over the hump. There is a silver lining, and believe you me, there's brightness in that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Well put, Camille. Well, thank you so much. We want to thank you to Urban League. Thank you for having us here. We're so excited, and hopefully that the information that Camille and I shared was very beneficial. And we're always available even after this is over. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Grow your business.
Welcome to the National Urban League Small Business Summit, Accessing Capital in the New Normal. I'm Sharon Epperson, CNBC Senior Personal Finance Correspondent, and I'm also a contributor to CNBC's Invest in You. Part of what we're doing at CNBC is trying to help people better manage, grow, and protect their money, including small business owners, where your business is a large part of your financial future. COVID-19 has had a major impact on small and minority-owned businesses, exacerbating issues that entrepreneurs were already facing, including the inability to readily access capital needed to sustain their business. Government pandemic assistance offered some relief through loans and grants, but some of the hardest hit by the current economic situation have been unable to get some of those grants and loans. Recent data from the Wells Fargo Gallup Small Business Index notes that over 1/3 of Black and African-American business owners surveyed said they found it difficult to obtain credit in the past 12 months. And post-COVID-19 access to capital will remain critical for minority businesses as they struggle to return to normal operations. So today's panel is going to explore the best ways to obtain loans and other types of financing vehicles to help strengthen and grow small businesses. And so let's meet our esteemed panelists. Starting off, we have Earl G. Graves, or as many of you know him, Butch. He has 30 years under his belt with Black Enterprise, and since 2006, he has held the current position as president and CEO. Under his leadership, Black Enterprise has expanded from a single title publication into a robust multimedia company. In 2000, he co-founded the Black Enterprise Greenwich Street Corporate Growth Fund, a unique private equity firm that is seeking to finance the growth of established minority-owned and also manage businesses across various industries. Butch, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sharon.
Everett Sands is our next panelist. He's CEO of Lendistry, a company he began to meet the need of making funding more available and more accessible for small business owners, particularly those in underserved communities. Lendistry is ranked second by the Small Business Administration's Community Advantage Lenders nationwide. And he is also a board member of the Penn Institute for Urban Research and a board member of the Center for Strategic Economic Studies and Institutional Development. That's a nonprofit providing technical assistance and business coaching services to underserved communities. Everett, welcome.
Thank you, Sharon. Happy to be here.
Our next panelist is Bob Marshall, the National Business Development Executive with Wells Fargo Bank for the Small Business Development Group. In this role, he leads a national team of business development leaders that is charged with acquiring new customers with sales ranging from $2 to $5 million. Mr. Marshall is involved within his community and serves on the board of directors of Greater Washington Urban League and the DC Jazz Festival. Bob was also recognized as one of Washington Business Journal's 2017 Minority Business Leaders. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Sharon. Glad to be here.
And finally, to round out our panel, we have Chef Chu, founder of Something Better Foods Incorporated, founding director of the nonprofit restaurant, The Veg Hub. And Chef Chu is an entrepreneur who, in his own words, was born with a mission and born to change lives one chew at a time. In this, his life motto has translated into a plant-based brand called Better Chew that is featured in Whole Food stores, and it's looking to expand. Chef Chu lives out his life ministering to the needs of others through formulating a process to help people transition from an unhealthy diet to a healthy diet, following Chu's very own FE formula: flavor, familiarity, encouragement, and education. Today, he will share more and educate us about what he has done in terms of transitions to make a pivot for his business in 2020. Welcome, Chef Chu. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Sharon. It's happy to be here.
You know, Butch, I want to start with you. Black Enterprise for decades has chronicled the ups and downs of Black businesses, but we've never experienced anything like this. What is your take on the current state of Black-owned businesses in this crisis?
Thank you, Sharon, for hosting and moderating this, and I want to thank the Urban League for inviting me to be a part of this panel. As you said, that this year, Black Enterprise will be celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2020, or is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And I will say to you, pre-COVID-19, let's call it pre-March of 2020, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses specifically that we're looking at, have been struggling, right? They've been struggling because There had not been a focus on trying to help establish minority-owned businesses. There had not been a help towards trying to lend to minority-owned businesses or Black-owned businesses. So there was already pre-COVID-19 a challenge. That challenge quintupled itself, if you will, post-COVID-19. And I think there's two pandemics to focus on. The first pandemic would be the pandemic of COVID-19. The second is the pandemic of racism, which is one I don't think that we would solve, but that pandemic of racism also came up in these last 6 months. It's been around for 400 years, but the focus on it became more intense. What's happened with COVID-19 has caused all of our businesses to have to pivot and pivot into a business that perhaps they were not used to, a business where suddenly the store that you had could not be open. The interaction and visiting with clients that you were doing, you no longer had access to. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is that 6 of 10 businesses are failing, right? 6 of 10 minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses are failing post-COVID-19. And that is not strictly access to capital, although I know we're going to address access to capital. It's also in terms of the size and scope of your business. Because if you're a small business in an environment where the people are looking to do business with less customers, not more customers, you become even smaller, right? And so one of the things that we're going to have to examine, I hope we examine on this panel today, is we've got to have our Black-owned business begin to come together and merge and become a business of substance. Because and when I say of substance, I'm not minimizing what the business is doing, but when I say substance, I'm talking in terms of scale. Because without scale, respectfully, Bob and the folks from Wells Fargo and others can't do business with you when your business is too small. So I'm an optimistic person by nature, Sharon, and so I always see the glass as being 3/4 full, not a quarter empty. And this is just another bump in the road for Black-owned businesses, which we will survive. But we're going to be much smarter about what we're doing and how we do it, and begin to work together in a way that we have heretofore not done so.
Absolutely. And you bring up a really important point that I'm hoping Everett can address, which is, a lot of small businesses, minority businesses, wish they could get to the $2 million to $5 million mark to be able to have access to Wells Fargo and get financing through a major bank. But many businesses are just starting out, and even if they've been around a long time, that goal has not been attained yet. And so those large lenders are not really looking to do business with them. So at this time, especially during this crisis, Everett, what are some of the barriers and what are some of the opportunities in terms of accessing capital for small businesses, for Black-owned businesses?
Thanks, Sharon, for the question. And as Butch said, thank you, National Urban League, for the opportunity to be here. I think first, let me just say that I'm a career banker. I was a part of 2 Black banks, and then went to Wells Fargo. And at all 3 of those institutions, I learned a lot. And the way I would describe it is, small businesses came into COVID in a financially precarious position already. And part of that is because underserved traditionally was defined based on race and gender and location. And then a 4th element took flight in 2010. And that 4th element was called operational efficiency. And what it meant was that banks were allowed to say things that other businesses had been saying, but now they were allowed to say it. And what that essentially is what the heart of what Butch is getting to in your question is, there's a certain dollar amount where it's just not operationally efficient for a bank to do that loan. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean that they don't do some of them, but they just can't do all of them. And so we created Lendistry to think about this and to think about how we could level the playing field. And one of the things we decided to do was invest in technology. And that investment in technology helped us to really think about the business owner. What we found is that the business owner wasn't available 9 to 5. They were available 5 to 9, right? We found that they were more available on the weekends. We found that they were more available late at night to do the things that they needed to do related to financing. So the first thing we think we need to do is we need to help the business owners just have more accessibility when they're available. The second thing we started looking at was kind of technical assistance and business advising. Traditionally it's been a one-on-one class or something that you do face-to-face. And with Zoom and with other things, we think that business owners have embraced other facets in terms of that delivery. And so one of the things we've been doing at Lendistry is we brought in online education. We think that's going to help a significant amount of business owners. And then the third thing I would bring up, and just to give you a little bit of Lendistry stats, so in this COVID environment, we're deploying roughly about $450 million in capital to 17,000 small businesses. And so what we've recognized with those small businesses is that it's really two of them. It's really one that's doing well. They're in logistics, they pivoted, they're in PPE, and they're looking for capital so they can grow. Maybe they have an alignment like Chef Chu does with Whole Foods or some other distributor, and there's an opportunity in the midst of the social unrest to expand the business, maybe something we've never had before. And then on the other side, there are definitely some that are on the other side of the equation. And what we're trying to encourage them to do is we're trying to encourage them to invite people on their team and on their board who've been through some type of financial stress environment. We're encouraging them to think about pivoting because the truth is that money is not fungible. It just transfers from one side to the other. And so we can get these small business owners to focus on things that'll bring them revenue in the form of pivoting and or exploring other things. We think that they're going to be okay. And the Black small business owner is fairly resilient and has made it through many, many financial crises before. We expect the same thing through this one.
Very good point. Very good point. We want to focus on those opportunities. And, there, as Butch laid out, the crisis, though, is dire for many Black-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, with 6 out of 10 expecting not to make it. And so I'm wondering, Bob, what opportunities are out there for those businesses that, again, are trying to get to the point that they can access capital from a Wells Fargo or a major bank? Are there other institutions that they should be looking at as they start to grow their business before they get to the point? Or what are you looking for the type of business that you would lend to at Wells Fargo?
Sure, that's a really good question to what I would say is sort of a complex issue. And it's complex because when you think about the environment we're in today, we hear our small business customers really focusing on what I would define as 3 things: resiliency, relevance, and relationship. When we talk about resiliency, it's okay, in this constrained business environment, how do I look at it and really begin to determine how to pivot? When I started this company, what was my mission? What was my value statement? Who are my customers? And does that still exist today? When I think about relevance, it's really about how do I not just allow my business to thrive, but really thrive in a sustainable way? And what steps do I need to take to make it happen? And then in terms of relationship is, as Butch said earlier, how do I collaborate horizontally and vertically to really begin to reimagine or refine my business model? And then when I'm doing that, how am I communicating with my customers and my employees to make sure that communication is frequent and transparent? And those things are important because, when I'm thinking about accessing capital, I got to think about what kind of capital do I need? Is it debt or do I need an investor? And each of those has its own different implications that I've got to really think about when I'm thinking about investing in my business, and how do I use that money to the best of my ability to move forward. If it is debt, okay, is it long-term debt, short-term debt? What is it that I'm really looking to do so that as a banker, I can help them in the most, practical, feasible way? And it's complicated because the businesses that we're talking about vary in types of industry, parts of those industries, and whether it's a sort of automatically a low-touch business or has become a low-touch business because of this constrained business climate we're in.
It's a very good point. And I really like the point of making sure that your business is fulfilling those 3 R's and looking at making sure you're being resilient, that you're relevant, and that you're building relationships. And that, of course, is something that you, Chef Chu, have done during your business career. And now having to pivot and make sure that your business continues to thrive, I'm sure you're finding new ways to do that during this COVID crisis. Can you talk a little bit about your business and kind of what you're doing right now to make it survive and thrive?
Absolutely. I'm actually the founder and CEO of a company called Something Better Foods. We manufacture plant-based protein. You've probably heard of companies like Beyond Meat and Possible Foods. I'm in that same industry, one of the few Black owners in this industry. Obviously, in the food industry, it was taking a very big hit when COVID hit in March. Most of the restaurants, which we call in food service, I manufacture products that we sell to restaurants, grocery stores. So pretty much our restaurant sales, where we sell in food service, literally just tanked overnight. Almost 70% of our sales were pretty much wiped away. On the other hand, in the grocery side and Whole Foods, people just really started stocking up on food. So we really immediately had a big hit from grocery sales, which was a blessing. At the same time, cash is king. And our industry is a small business. Cash flow is everything. And so for us, we had to spend a lot of time not only looking for new revenue, but also finding ways to also improve our margins. So one of the things that we did with our advisors is said, how can we figure out a model where we can actually get more out of the dollar that we're actually selling? So if my cost of goods is 40%, can I get it down to 30%, which increases my margin? So we spent a lot of time over the last 6 months, not only focusing on growth strategies and other alternative models, but also focusing on ways to be able to have a better margin in our company so we can survive, so we don't have to earn a lot more revenue, but with the revenue that we're earning, we're getting more out of it. Also, I think resiliency, as has been mentioned by everyone on the call, that's been everything. It's been days where, the bank account looked real bad. But positioning ourselves so that when we go to a Lendistry, when we go to a Wells Fargo, that we have the actual financials that make sense. So we spent a lot of time building our financial package, working with advisors, and we've been able to raise money during this time frame. And so I think a lot of it's positioning yourself properly and understanding what the expectations are, both from the investors, whether equity investment or from loan investment, knowing what the expectations are and positioning ourselves with a great story, that get people excited as well. And so that's some of the things that we've done during this time to survive.
I'd love if you could talk a little bit more on how you were able to improve your margins during this time, because I think a lot of business owners will be like, how did he possibly do that? It's again, when you're seeing declines in revenue, how do you do that? What were the first steps that you took that you think that any business should employ?
Absolutely. So my CFO, James, and myself, we actually spent a lot of time looking at all of our actual cost of goods, line item by line item in a spreadsheet. And so we looked at it and said, okay, for example, we buy packaging, and so we sell in Whole Foods. So we was purchasing our packaging at like 60 cents a bag. So on a basic level, we can get that same bag at 20 cents a bag. It's something drastic, and it seems something as simple, but we had to figure out how can we purchase these bags in larger quantities. So I needed cash. So when I went to an investor, I said, listen, can you help me to get some financing, working capital, so that I can actually purchase these bags in more volume, which in turn is going to reduce my cost of goods, in turn is going to increase my margin. So what we did is went through every ingredient, every process that we're doing, and said, how can we squeeze pennies, and save pennies, I should say, so that we can increase it. So I think that was the mindset. So when I talk to a Lendistry, for example, which I haven't talked to, but if I talk to a bank, that's my story. And the bank gets excited because they're saying, okay, he's thought through where he's losing money and how he can improve his business. And that got everybody excited. So it's really a meticulous process, being very into the details of the business, which made everything come to life for us.
For years, you have chronicled how important having that well thought out business plan is for business owners. But in a crisis, as Chef Chu has just kind of laid out, you have to be able to explain that business plan in various ways. It could do plan A would be this way, plan B would be this way, plan C would be this way, and encourage not only lenders to see what you're doing, but also equity investors. I thought that was a very key point that he brought up, because I wonder how many small businesses are thinking really proactively about lining up more investors rather than just looking at where they can borrow.
Jerry, you bring up a good point. Reality is that minority businesses have got to focus on multiple different ways to finance their business, right? The majority of them are not going to be able to walk up with A+ credit go knock on Bob's door and say, hey, I'd like to borrow $5 million. And they're going to go, oh, let me see your financials. And they go, great, come back next week, we'll have the check ready for you. That's just not the reality of how it works. So when I say there should be multiple things, and one of the things that needs to happen is that I would encourage Black-owned businesses, you got to get your books together, right? You got to have your numbers right. You got to get your books together. You got to have financials that make sense. There's a program that happened, and again, I'm not turning this into a political conversation at all, but during COVID-19, there was a program that's been available to everyone, to Black-owned businesses in particular, called payroll PPP, Payroll Protection Plan. That was, in effect, free money that was available to you if you could pull together and demonstrate that you, in fact, have employees, you have costs, you have rent costs, you have employee costs, you've got healthcare costs, you've got any number of different costs, follow the rules, and the money was sitting there available. What was happening is Black-owned businesses were not signing up to apply for it, which was crazy. So, and I'll say firsthand, we did it, right? We Black Enterprise did it. If they open it up on Tuesday night, I'm on, right?
Right.
I'm on filling out the stuff. And we have 3 operating companies. I filled it out for all of them. We got payroll, we got PPP money for all 3. Did I get everything I wanted? No, but I got enough to be able to help us and sustain us through this period. When I was talking with one of the professors at Harvard Business School who had been studying what's been happening in Black-owned businesses, they simply were not applying. And so I am not saying you should not utilize Lendistry and you should not utilize, Wells Fargo's and institutions like that. But, families and friends, that's going to dry up in a crisis, right? They got their own problems. So you got to look for these other plans and programs that are going to be available. There is still money open in the PPP program. It's unspent. Now they're going to wait probably until post the election because they don't want to influence the election in one way, shape, or form. But you can be assured sometime in November, they're going to reopen the PPP. They're going to make that money available to small businesses with a real emphasis on Black-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, because remember when PPP opened, next thing you knew, the Los Angeles Lakers were applying and public utility companies were applying. And so you had these billion-dollar corporations that were getting PPP relief. But what is it that they know that we don't know? And what they knew is, hey, this is money that's available. The government's going to give us this money to assist us. Why would we not take it? And I don't blame them. But now I'm looking at our Black-owned business and saying, hey guys, get with it. Let's focus on what this money is available and take advantage of this program while we do it. But you can't, Sharon, you're not going to be able to do it if you don't have the most basic of things done. If you're not filed your tax returns, you're not got your financials pulled together, the most basic of things, which you're going to
That's what I was going to ask you, because also, even though we're waiting now to see what's going to happen next with PPP, there are still SBA loans, emergency disaster loans, or economic disaster loans, I should say, that are available from the SBA. But it says right there that when you fill this out, be ready. It's going to be like a 2-hour process to fill this out on just the online part. And I'm wondering how many people are they don't have their books together, as you were saying, to be able to apply for that. The same holds true for local government assistance that may find out through going to the state economic development agency and see what they have available, or through your local municipality, or through the Chamber of Commerce. But no one wants to give anyone money without seeing what the books look like. Is that
right? And the craziest thing is, some of the businesses I talked to, they were like, no, I don't want to apply for that because they'll be getting all up in my business, and then I got to keep my stuff private. What if you can keep it private. 100% of nothing is 100% of nothing, right? So you better off owning 25% of something, combining your businesses, doing those things that are necessary. Hey, they made it available, I applied. So I'm putting it firsthand. We did PPP. They said, oh, SBA loans are available. When is it open? Wednesday night I'm on, filling out the paperwork that's necessary. And we got it. It's not simple, but it's what you have to do. and we're in a crisis. You got to figure out how to, how to be creative in these times to survive this, so that when things turn back to normal, whatever normal is going to be, and whatever normal is going to be, that you're in a position to be able to re-engage in business in a meaningful way.
Bob and Everett, I wanted to ask you, in terms of having people who have applied for, received PPP, gone through that process and the paperwork, how do you view that type of borrower, because they have gone through this process? Is it a good thing because they have kind of laid out their financials there, and so you know what they are, or is it a hindrance? I mean, let me start with you, Bob. And what is your view on that?
So I agree with Butch. Part of the issue is we have to take advantage of the resources that are available to us. When I think about PPP loan, think about the criteria and think about the possibility that up to 80% of it can be forgiven. I mean, let's just say, that's significant. You can physically tell people what you do, you submit it, and they say, okay, we may have given you $100,000, but you only have to pay back $20,000. That's meaningful to a business. If it's 10, it's still meaningful to a business. And so it can't hurt you to go to your bank, utilize the PPP program to help you keep your business afloat during this time period, to keep your employees paid, to get your operations together, to move out of this situation. It never hurts. I also would say, to Butch's point, with all of the social injustice, all the unrest, there's a ton of money in the market, in the community, that has been committed by various foundations, organizations, you have it, where as a small business owner, I would be looking to see if I can get that money, because that money's grant money, and there's nothing holding you back to get that money or to see if you can apply for that grant because of what you do and how you do it. And so there's no downside to PPP, to me, from a Black business owner having a relationship with a bank or finance company. It's just no downside. It's something that is available that we need to take advantage of.
Absolutely, but education is key in knowing how best to apply, in knowing where to apply beyond your bank, beyond PPP. Everett, let me touch you a little bit about that. You talked about how important kind of the online tools are for Lendistry. And I'm wondering what type of education you provide to help people understand where they can go, what companies may be offering grants, what local businesses should access their Chamber of Commerce. What do is there an opportunity to work with a score advisor or some type of nonprofit business counselor to kind of help you through the process? What is Lendistry's take on this?
Yeah, so we are conducting classes, webinars, and we also have business advisors who are doing one-on-one training for small businesses to help them with PPP, to help them with various grant programs. And that training is everything from learning how to do your financial statements, which I'm really proud of you, Chef Chu, that you broke it down line by line, because listen, that's what's needed, right? First of all, even knowing what the lines are, let's just start there. And then being able to, to make a decision that I'm going from 60 cents to 20 cents and with scale and with volume, that's obviously very important to that business. And then I think the other thing that, I think, Sharon, we should say, and I don't know if Bob can say it because he's at an esteemed institution, but let me say it because I used to work there. I was an underwriter for 5 years. So let's just talk about this very practically. If you had round one and you didn't make it because your financial statements or whatever wasn't together, and you have round two and you didn't make it because your financial statements were together, and now to Butch's point, round three is coming. I'm not going to lend money to you if you didn't figure it out through 3 rounds, if I'm just being honest with you, right? Because as an underwriter, what we do is we would sit there and the water cooler talk, or the talk at our desk was, okay, wait, does this person understand their business just at a basic level? And are they doing what he or she needs to do to understand the business. We all get that you might not understand it day one, but if you're not doing the things that it takes to understand the business, like you can't sit at home and then not work in your business. Those two don't go together. Either you're too busy because you're advancing your business and you pivoted, or you're at home and you're in the books trying to figure out the best thing to do to move my business forward or my next business forward. Either way, by round 3, you should be able to participate in PPP or any other grants. And let me just say something further on the grants. Every state and every county that has greater than 500,000 people receive CARES Act funds. There is no state that did not receive CARES Act funds. The industry runs the program for the state of Pennsylvania. We run the program for 5 different counties in terms of grant funds. There are massive amounts of grants out here, and almost every state has not utilized all of their CARES Act. Actually, I don't know one so far that has. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Illinois, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, whatever. There are programs out there where you could apply for a grant right now. Now you have to take the opportunity to do some research and follow the money, but it's public information about where the CARES Act money went to for the different states and the different counties. It's public information what the states and the counties are doing. And they have until December 31st as it stands right now to issue the money. So there's a huge opportunity for call it the next 60 days to focus on that and to get those funds in your business.
Is grants.gov one place that people should go to? Should they go to their official state website, look at the economic development department? Do they look at the Chamber of Commerce? Where are some places that people can look as they're watching this from all over the country? Where do they go? What resources should they bookmark right now to make sure they check out?
Yeah, so first answer is all of the above, but the main place where you're focusing on is Department of Commerce, Economic Development, and then also the state's treasurer. And then you're going to go down to the county level. Remember, if the county has greater than 500,000 people, it has money, right? So for example, if you're in Maryland right now, Governor Hogan just announced that he's pulling $250 million from the rainy day fund. You could have read that on the Baltimore Business Journal. You could just Google Maryland grants, right? They have grant programs that have been running out, but now the state is replenishing it with more money. Or you can go down to a lower level and you can look at Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Baltimore, different things like that. So my answer to you, I don't want to limit them to just grants.gov. I absolutely want them to do that, but I don't want them to not get the county and city grants, which wouldn't be on that federal site. So that's why I want them to dig a little bit deeper.
Good point. Very good point. Chef Chu, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think you can offer a lot of guidance here and explain to people, if you were able to get financial assistance during this time, how you went about doing it. And if you didn't need to get it, then how are you able to survive without it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like Mr. Butch said, I mean, I got PPP. I mean, that was the moment it came out, the moment I was online and I had actually a friend of mine that actually is a finance person that actually reached out, and he gave me a contact to a bank that had a really streamlined process. One thing I would say is that, in business, it's like, you have summertime, springtime, winter. Obviously COVID represents the winter. Things dried up. Things got pretty crazy. I mean, business starts to go, crazy. But I think in the times of plenty, in the times of, when it's summertime, you have to get a lot of stuff in place when things are going good. And I think that's kind of what happened with us, is that during the time prior to this, we spent a lot of time getting our books together. So we were able to apply for the PPP and actually get the funding. One thing I would say is also, as a small business, you have to build your network. Getting advisors is so critical. We got money through Wells Fargo through a program called Working Solutions, which was a CDFI that Wells Fargo gave money to invest into Black businesses. They also provided advisement for my business. And so many of our investors that we have on our team, they actually came and provided advisement, which helped us with our financials, helped us with our business planning, helped us with our business development. So a lot of our work for us was having a team of people that was a part of our team prior to the COVID. And if you have to do it now during COVID, there's people that's obviously willing to help because we're in a crisis. But I think a lot of it is getting good advisors, have a good management team. And we spent a lot of time understanding our books, our financials, so that we're able to, meet the needs that we're going through. So I think a lot of things, we're in a marathon. So I think, and business has ups and downs. And so you have to think about your business from that holistic perspective. And that's helped us to kind of survive. But PPP, we've also gotten debt funding during this time frame. I've gotten equity financing. And so as, again, I've learned to diversify, where we're looking for funding. I mean, there's equity investment. And so we look at equity. What does that look like? And what is the criteria, the exchange I make on that equity? What's the exchange in the debt? So we're using debt primarily for our company in manufacturing for equipment. So most of our debt is going towards equipment. Banks like that because it's secured. It makes sense. If I say, hey, I want to get $250,000 of working capital, they look at me and kind of smile, but they kind of say, hey, is there some security that I can get on that debt? So,
Sure.
Again, a lot of that came through, again, having 2-hour conversations with my team, management team, and then speaking to advisors before I go to an investor, before I go to a bank. So by the time I get to that funding institution opportunity, I know what to say. I know what not to say. I kind of have an idea what to look for in that process.
Chef Chu, how old is your business? How long have you been in business?
I've been in the restaurant industry for almost 12 years. So I have a nonprofit restaurant in Oakland, but in the manufacturing side, we started in 2017 when we actually started our company. And so we're growing. We're having an amazing year. We actually hit our best months in COVID. So it's kind of I say that humbly because I know everybody hasn't experienced that, but I mean, we've seen miracles, during this time frame.
So in 3 years, you built this management team and team of advisors. What would you say to people are the 3 key roles, and maybe there's 6, I don't know, however many you think there are, to the management team? It can't just be you, right?
Absolutely. I was fortunate. One of my best friends from school has an MBA in finance. I called him 2 years ago. Actually, I just got funding from Wells Fargo through the Working Solutions program, and I actually had an opportunity to go into Whole Foods. And I asked him this to help me to get my financials together. We got so excited. I just kind of kept talking to him, and next thing you know, we kept talking to where now he's our CFO. So one of the most critical positions, as Butch and as everybody here, the other gentlemen have mentioned, that we got to have your finances together. And what he did is that he came on and provided that assistance for me to help me to get really solid financials. I mean, we live in Excel. That's like our best friend right now, right? So we literally stay in spreadsheets, understanding our business. Also, I found good managers, as far as it's in our production. So this in our day-to-day activities, I had great people that came on the team from that perspective. But on the management side, lastly, I have an administration / kind of operational member as well. She actually came on about a year ago. And so a lot of the things as a CEO, I'm always looking for fundraising, trying to develop new concepts, new processes, pivoting, but she's helping to make sure the day-to-day administrative functionalities are not being missed. So again, the bank says I need this by this date. I might be so bogged down with so many projects and other responsibilities, being on this call, whatever, she's going to make sure those things are getting done. And so at the other side of the coin is they haven't gotten paid yet. So these 10 members, we're a startup. So I had to find a way to give them equity, so I've given them equity to kind of come on early. And we all are going, are in this for the long haul. And now we're in a place where, literally I had my first paycheck about 6 months ago, making pretty good money. And now my other team members are coming on full time at this point because we've raised the money to make that happen. So again, a lot of it is sweat equity, selling the dream. As a founder, I had to sell the dream to them to say, hey, some of these individuals have C executive positions, and they're leaving their C executive position to work in a startup, a scrappy startup. So, I think selling that vision and getting people excited about what you're trying to do, and it makes a big difference.
I wanted to ask you, Bob, how important it is to see that kind of structure, that kind of management structure when you are thinking about lending money to a small business.
I think it's really important. And what he describes is like what I would say perfect. But for us, I think it's who are your advisors? Who are the key managers in your business? How are y'all looking at today, tomorrow, and 3 years from now? Because I think at the end of the day, we want to know 2 things. One, do you have a good handle on what you do, who your customers are, and how you do what you do? And then who's your supporting cast? Because you can't, as Chef Chu sort of eloquently described, you can't do it by yourself. You have to have some people who are there with you in the trenches, helping you move your business forward. And so we would love to see that kind of structure with everybody, but I think some components of it is needed regardless of the size of business. And the advisory board, to me, for every business, is one of the most critical functions. not a big board, but people who are going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not, that you can throw ideas at, and they will give you realistic, practical, objective responses, and kind of help you keep thinking about how to move your company forward.
Everett, if you do not have a friend with an MBA, and if you don't have someone that you think is well organized and who can be your COO, how do you find the people for your team? Does it mean you just put yourself out there on LinkedIn and you say, this is my business, these are the things I'm looking for? Are there groups or networking associations that you should be a part of to try to help you build out? Again, it's your baby, you love it, you built it, you want it to grow. And it is, a lot of people are a little bit reticent to let others on board if they don't know them, and to bring others in if they don't know them. So how do you build that team if you don't have the network yourself?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing we have to understand in a business is that there's a continuum of capital. And so capital generally starts with your own money, and it starts with maybe credit cards or home equity. Then you get into microfinancing, and you get into kind of middle financing, and then you become bankable. And so you heard Chef Chu mention a community development financial institution. That's what Lendistry is. And there are various community development financial institutions. And so there are community development financial institutions that'll do microloans. They'll help you with kind of 100,000 and below. There's 100,000 to 5 million, like where Lendistry is. And then there's 5 million and above, and generally you're bankable at that point. But the answer to your question is, in each one of those steps, if you have the right relationships and the right network, even in your finance providers, we're going to help you get some guidance. And yes, the answer to your question is, one of the main things we tell you to do is start leveraging LinkedIn, start leveraging the people that you know, start leveraging the people at school, start leveraging your banker. We tell you to get a relationship with your banker almost 2 to 3 years in advance of actually going to a bank for a loan, because all of these things, we're setting you up for success. And, Bob mentioned having an advisory board or having, different people that can help you. I will tell you that we got our marketing team here from LinkedIn when I, as a small business owner, had to reach out because I didn't understand what digital marketing was, what content marketing was, what marketing was, what brand management was, all those different things. But what we've learned is that tools like LinkedIn, tools like your friends, tools like your family, a lot of people have access to it. You do have to have the time to put yourself out there. You do have to have the time to receive the feedback and to make some mistakes, which again, I think is also key to the growth of an African-American business, is that sometimes we're trying to do everything A to Z. We got to very quickly figure out what we do best and start to build that team around us that can do the rest.
I think you outlined, Everett, a couple of good things that I wanted to know if you could go into just a bit more detail on, and that is where you can get loans and you can borrow money from, not just traditional big bank, but like you were saying, the community development financial institution, as well as credit unions, as well as opportunity micro loans. What's kind of the gamut of what people need to look at in terms of where they go to get financial assistance and to borrow for financial assistance? And what should you know about how much money you should have or what size business you should have to access capital in those ways?
Yeah, I would encourage people to think about it like education. You go to primary school, and you go to high school, you go to college, and you're lucky enough you get the secondary degree. Finance is built the exact same way. So you have micro lenders, you have economic development corporations, you have what I would call mission-based type programs. That's kind of your first set. Then you have those that are supported by banks. So we're supported by banks to do the lending that banks can't do. I think sometimes as African Americans, we're tendency to think bank only, bank only, bank only. Well, no, those are structure created in 1994, recognizing that banks can't do it all. And that's what a community development financial institution is. And then the CDFIs, that's what we're nicknamed. We come in different sizes. So we do different layers of capital. And for example, Chef Chu mentioned Working Solution. We know that team, and we're one of the people that they're a feeder to us, and then we're a feeder to banks. So the community development financial institutions, there's an SBIC, Small Business Investment Company, that's generally going to be after the CDFI. That's going to be a little bit higher end. And those loans will probably range somewhere in the range of 5 million to 25 million. But there's several different conduits of the capital that can help our small businesses as they grow and they go through different cycles. Last thing I would say also, when they're thinking about business acquisition, as Butch said, so when Chef Chu wants to buy 3 or 4 other companies, we're going to help them to get scalable and scale up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is one more question I had for you, Chef Chu. And I know people don't like to think about kind of the what if scenarios, especially someone like you, you started your business in 2017 and now you have COVID. The last thing you want to think about is what happens if I get sick or I'm not here to continue my business. But how important is that kind of transition planning or succession planning, even as a relatively new business owner, important to your startup? Do you have something in place? Is it your COO or your CFO that might be there if God forbid, you get COVID or you have to be quarantined or you can't do your role for a period of time? How do you think about that, and how important is it for you to have a plan for that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, small businesses, like I said, we do have investors. We've gotten over $1 million in investment into our company. So obviously, if I die tomorrow, the investors want to make sure that our business still succeeds. So one thing is having some type of key life insurance. I think that's always important. That's obviously very inexpensive for a company. And also, I think what I've done is really taken a lot of time to instill the values of our business with our management team. That's something that I really, we spent, hours and hours and hours. We're a small team, but again, knowing that they understand the values that I believe, and they also add values that they have, and they are part of that management decision. So, we obviously, communication is king. I think that's one of the things that we've leveraged, in our company. So, right now, my CFO, he's, we're lock hand and fist, as a company right now. And he understands the business just as much as I do. It's almost like he taught me the finance side, and I, in essence, kind of lending him some of my experience. And so we kind of can take, exchange roles to a point where we both feel confident if we had one of us gone, we still can survive and still keep it moving. So I think a lot of it is just, again, having good advisement that can help you to create that. We're in the process of creating that plan. Also, I have a wife, and that's also that she understands my equity position in the company and all the aspects that we have in the company. And then having a good legal team. Lastly, I say a great legal team. I have an amazing legal team that we've spent a lot of time making sure that everything's been put in place for that as well. So, it's a work in progress. It's not perfect. Small businesses, this is probably like a round 2 or 3, maybe even 4 before you start thinking at this level. But to your point, it's something that you don't want to wait if you can't. It's something to definitely think about, especially when you bring in investors, because, it can be a nightmare when you have a lot of investment and don't have any kind of plan if something goes wrong. So that's something that we definitely have thought about and working on.
I think it's very important. I'm a planner. It's what I cover in terms of focus on what you can control. And there's so much you can't control. So having those teams in place to cover those various aspects is so very important to make sure that you are in control of what you can. Butch, I want to bring the final question to you because you have a dual role here as an insider and a business owner, and also as someone who has chronicled through Black enterprise for 50 years, the plight and the opportunities and the excellence of Black businesses. So there has never been a COVID-19 crisis that we've had to face, but there have been many crises that we as African-American and African-American business owners and African-American people have faced. And there are ways that we get through this. So what perspective can you bring to business owners out there about, what the opportunities may be lying ahead? There are definitely a lot of challenges that we're in right now, but how can they be transformed into opportunities?
Yeah, from every tragedy emerges opportunity. And, I've said to some of my white colleagues, and they were freaking out about COVID-19. And I said, listen, for Black people, we're in a pandemic every day. So we wake, this is yet another thing next to it, but it's not as if COVID-19 was here, we were going to be great, right? Everything was fine. So I think that we're very resilient. And I'm not generalizing, but I don't want to generalize too much, but we're resilient. We deal with disappointment. We know what that looks like. We don't expect that everything's just going to go just perfect. But I will say to you that there is corporate America, because I want to spend a moment just chatting about the corporate America. The consciousness of corporate America has been raised due to what happened with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and countless others, right? There's been there's a reawakening. Now, it may not last a long period of time, so you need to focus on it right away. But a lot of corporations have made all kinds of different, pronouncements of, we're going to put $500 million towards social justice, and we're going to invest in minority-owned business. And the only way to make that happen is you got to hold them accountable. Right? You got to hold corporate America accountable. I don't care if it's, you name the corporation, and many of them in technology and others have not, moved forward and made that investment. But there is opportunity, right? And I think that opportunity will grow out of this. I think you have to pivot. I will say to you, you need to invest in technology, because I've seen over these past few decades, I've seen more Black businesses fail because they never wanted to invest or embrace the fact that technology was here. The 8-track tape that you had in your car in the 70s does not work now. You can't do that, right? I mean, and for all those of us that have kids, we like, I've had to embrace the lifestyle of a millennial. I've got 4 millennial children between ages of 30 and 25. And I used to look at them like they were crazy. So listen, I'm not doing that. I don't even know what a Venmo is.
And now we all have to do it.
And right now, right, what are you talking about? Venmo me this, and I call them, they text me back. We've all gone, but now I'm looking at it, I'm realizing, actually, they've got this figured out, right? And so embracing technology will help you to navigate through and be able to pivot in a different way. We were in the magazine publishing business. I don't know of a kid age 30, I'm calling them kids, or younger, that's ever read a magazine or newspaper, right? They don't even know what that is. So we have to focus on how we're going to deliver content, how we're going to make money in an environment, look for those opportunities, embrace young people, embrace technology, and figure out how to do it, right? Because
yes, absolutely,
absolutely.
Change is the name of the game right now, right? I mean, that's what everyone has
you're
to do and what all businesses have to do.
Right, you're in the media business, Sharon. How are young people? How do you reach that audience?
Exactly.
Got to do it.
Well, there is so much that we can talk about this. And the great thing is, Everett kind of laid it out, reach out to everybody on LinkedIn. You already know that, right? You already going to try to connect or follow the people who have been on this panel. I want to thank the esteemed panel. Butch Graves, thank you so much for your insight. Chef Chu as well, and Everett and Bob. People now know how they can access capital and try to get their financials in order so they have these opportunities. I want to thank the National Urban League for hosting this event. It was such an important discussion that we had. And thank you again for attending, for paying attention, and for reaching out to one another and to the National Urban League for more information about what you can do for your small business right now. There are opportunities. Thanks for being here.
everyone. I'm Ayana Green, Vice President of Small Business Strategy and Revenue Channels. So excited to be here today, and in particular because we're so proud of our relationship with the National Urban League. Together, we serve communities that matter, and we couldn't be more proud of our longstanding partnership. And today is just an extension of that partnership. We're happy to be supporting small businesses, specifically as part of the entrepreneurship program and all the affiliates across the US. And we are excited to introduce a special guest today. two-time NBA champion, Emmy Award winning analyst, and founder of the Jet Academy, Mr. Kenny Smith. Welcome.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. And we're both from Queens. I don't know if you knew that. So hopefully you feel some New York love on this side.
Queens is in the building.
Exactly,
sure.
Right? It's awesome. So you have had a very successful basketball career, a two-time NBA champion, award-winning analyst. What inspired you to take the plunge into entrepreneurship? Tell us more about your adventures away from the court.
Well, I think overall, just in terms of entrepreneurship, I think it grassrooted with my mom and dad. They were, originally my mom was a kindergarten, first grade teacher. So I learned how to write pretty early.
Go, Mom. Go,
my penmanship was impeccable very early. And then my dad worked for Con Edison, which is, but it's a lot company in New York. And then about probably when I was about 10 years old, both of them quit their jobs at the same time and opened their an own business, a flowers and candle shop in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And so they became entrepreneurs at that age and decided not to work with anyone. And it was funny because this almost happened, but not almost happened in terms of my quitting, but it happened very similarly with when I was at TNT. It was my dad's 20th year working at Con Edison. And they gave him a cup. And he said, after 20 years, all I get is a cup. I'm in the wrong business. And so, because I got something very similar for my 20 years, and I started laughing. I was like, my dad quit when he got this gift after 20 years. So y'all gotta watch out. But so that was the start of it. And, watching them kind of organize, bring things together, order merchandise, doing the rent, putting product in, placement of product, all of those things. I was like, wow, okay. This is how you do your own business. And so throughout my college career, when I was in college and high school, we owned a flowers and a candle shop. And so that was it. That was
it was always in your blood to some extent.
Yeah, it was in the blood to some extent. And then, which for me is now, from where I am now, excuse me, to where I was, my newest venture is Jet Academy. I do a virtual online streaming sports academy. And the difference is, you see all these things where you can go on and you can like order a video. Well, ours is live. So it's a live virtual training system. I came up with it through the pandemic, honestly. We have over 6,000 kids that have signed up for it worldwide. That's the difference, obviously, about pivoting. We're talking this is going to be about small businesses pivoting. It's a worldwide business where when I used to do a live basketball camp, I could have 300-400 kids in a camp, but I couldn't have, I couldn't have, 6,000 kids at one time.
Amazing. But worldwide, what countries are you talking about?
Well, it was interesting because, once I started it, I grabbed NBA players. So I had Kemba Walker, Trae Young from Atlanta. I had Victor Oladipo, Breonna Stewart, Brittany Griner, all stars and WNBA all-stars. And we just become your personal trainer for 1 hour a day. And we come on live. And then we do have pre-recorded segments. So think of it as a television show. And we do that. You sign up and you can actually do the drills with the player at the same time. And then just like, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all the other lives, you could type your questions in as you're doing it, or you can upload your video and we critique your videos within 48 hours. So that's been, something that I worked on through the pandemic. And it's something that I pivoted towards because my kids were sitting around and we were doing nothing. And my oldest son said, you should do like a Zoom camp. And from that, it sparked all of the interest. And we sat down, my oldest son, who goes to the University of North Carolina, myself, we sat in and we talked about how to put it together on a bigger scale. And lastly on that, we invite kids in sometime live, and we'll say, okay, well, let's see if you're doing it right. And I could push a button and get you in. And the first kid was from Florida, which was, expected. Next kid was from New York. So I was like, okay. And then the next kid was from Guatemala, Mexico. I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
And then the fourth kid, I'm looking and I'm like, it's dark. I'm like, why is it dark? He's like, well, I'm in Guatemala. And so because of the, the reach that you're able to have, you're able to kick kids from all over the world.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. And it's nice to feel like you're making a difference in the lives of kids. And I know basketball and sports mean a great deal. And in fact, I played lacrosse back in the day. And I will say for me, I think some of the most important lessons were learned on the field or on the court. And I can only imagine what you've learned on the field and or in the court, really. What lessons would you say you've learned as an athlete that translate to who you are today and especially as you as a business owner?
Well, I think especially for, I know we have a lot of small business owners on, and we have, obviously all the way to UPS, who's a corporation. I would say the most translatable thing that I've learned is about being a champion. You said, you introduced me, you said two-time champion. Championship is not a skill set, it's a mindset. And so there's a way of movement that you have to move to be a champion. And a lot of people have great skill sets, but aren't able to translate that into being winners or being champions or ultimate winners. And there's always, from skill set, there's some winning, but being an ultimate winner, I always felt that is the transferable thing in terms of mindset of inclusion, a mindset of being an individual inside of a team. How does your skill set and your skill set, if you're always thinking how it affects and helps someone else on your team and makes them better, that is the one thing that I've noticed that a lot of companies that I've come across, they don't possess. It's, I'm doing my job and I'm doing it well. Well, let's take sports, for example. LeBron James and Anthony Davis just won the NBA championship, and they get most of the credit, and deservedly so at times. But if both of them have a great game, one has 35 points and the other one has 35 points, they're on the same team. They only have 70 points. That's not going to win any NBA game. So there is another 60 points that is needed, that is crucial, even when those guys are playing at their maximum. Like, there's a crucial 60 points that will help you become a champion. And if your skill set doesn't engage those other players, then you're not a champion.
It's interesting. So you're talking about partnership, and as an entrepreneur, that sometimes can be a challenge, to start to identify those right partners to your point, take you over the line so that you're winning. Like, how important is partnership in entrepreneurship? How important are partners, or have they been for you as you've developed the Jet Academy and some of your other ventures?
I haven't done anything in my life without help. Anything. Not one thing. I mean, even to get to the track to run, my dad would drive me. Like, so there's nothing I've done by myself. And the partnerships are important. And the first thing I always ask, even from a teammate standpoint or a partnership standpoint, is, what will make this successful for you? I know it makes successful for me. I don't have to answer that question. I know who I am. I know what I need. I know what's going to make it. But the first question that I think that any small business person or any business in general should ask is, how can this partnership, what's going to make it successful? Because then it's a measurable stick. So, and then when I hit that stick, you can't say that we didn't have a good partnership. And then if I go beyond it, that's my goal, is to go beyond it. So when I came in so we go to sports, I come in as a point guard when I get traded to the Houston Rockets, and I'm playing with Akeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest centers that ever played. I'm like, what do you like the ball? How can I make this good for you? How can I make this easy for you? What can I do to make this better for you? And so he's telling me where he likes the ball, where he likes to go, when he's running. And I'm like, okay, got it. Now I'm going to incorporate my skill set into that. And then I'm going to tell him how to make me better. Like, okay, now once you're doing that, but most people come in saying how can you make me better? Like so we get on the phone, Anna, you're gonna host this, but before you start hosting to make me feel good, you're gonna have to say, no, that's not a great partnership to me.
No, that's great. So you really find a way to make yourself an indispensable partner to whomever you engage with. Talk a little bit about work ethic, because I'm imagining as a two-time NBA All-Star, you've had to put some serious hours in, sweat equity in, and I got to imagine that translates to being an entrepreneur as well. Tell me more about your work ethic and how that matters.
Work ethic is part of the skill set. That is a skill. To actually have a work ethic. Because it's identifiable, but it's not always driven. And so most people think that, oh, that person has that inside them. No, like there's a difference between if I said, Ayana, I want you to work hard on a basketball court. I said, I want you to work hard. You're not running fast enough, run harder. But if I tell you, if I quantify it and say, you're not running hard if you don't go down and back in 10, then it becomes a skill set and it becomes a work habit. And so identifying what that exactly is and quantifying it is a skill set that is working hard, is work ethic. But most of even as parents, a lot of times we say, clean that room. We come back in the room and like, oh, the room's still not clean. But if we say, I want the bed made, I want the floor done, and then I want the rug straightened when I walk in, now he has or she has something quantified, knowing what that is. And then you actually feel better when you walk in. It's like, well, at least they did that. You know what I mean? And they did that. And so I think that's the biggest thing I learned about business is quantifying things and making sure that people are identifying. I have another friend, he's the athletic director at Texas Southern University. And his name's Kevin Granger. And one of the things he always says is, when people leave my office, they might not like what I said, but they're never confused. They're never confused on what I said, but they might not like it, but they're never confused. And so I think that is a quality also that I tried to implement, learning from one of my friends.
So when you speak to work ethic, I love that, defining success. We do that at UPS as well. Metrics, at the end of the day, your performance is going to be measured against the objectives that we've defined for you, right? Because to your point, if we haven't made that clear, then it's almost an unfair expectation, because two people can have very different ideas of what success looks like. And then you said that winning mindset, the championship mindset. So when you look at what you've done with the Jet Academy or even broadcast and television, how did you develop that winning mindset, and how did you define success for yourself in each one of those?
It's being around other winners, because you take things from them, and you identify people and say, man, that's successful to me. That looks like, how did you do that? A good friend of mine, Magic Johnson, I talked to him, early in my career, after basketball. And he was actually he was broadcasting with us. And so after the broadcast, he and I would go work out. And so we'd work out, we'd go eat. We did this for about 6-7 months. And then I said, hey, Magic, you know what? I want to have a conversation with you about business. And he goes, I was wondering when you're going to ask me. Like, no one, you're the only person who's never asked me that. He said, what do you need? I said, I don't need anything. I said, I just want to know how you did it. Just sit down and just tell me how you did it. And my path might be longer, shorter, or different, but I just want to know how you got to that point. And we just talked about how you got there. And so for me, that's when, things started to kind of pick up in terms of sponsorship and deliverables and functions and live events, and some of the things that I do kind of came about based on that conversation. It's just not always asking, can you give me, but just give me the information, because I think I'm smart enough to figure it out and do it as well. And then just, lean on you for that information more than your actual time all the time, or your actual dollars.
Well, it's funny you bring up Magic, because we just did a webinar with him, and like you said, he just had pearls of wisdom. His story is quite remarkable. His translation to the court, to success in the boardroom, and that's a perfect segue to mentorship. And it sounds like that's really what you took advantage of with him. What advice would you give entrepreneurs looking for mentors, and how to find one, and how to best position themselves as a mentee?
I think that the most important thing now is you have about a 30 more day window of you may be able to catch anyone because of the pandemic. Everyone is Zooming, so no one's on the highway, no one's meeting in their office. So they're on these devices all the time. So if you can get to someone through a direct message, a Twitter, a phone call, I've learned, even not just for myself, but from other people, that they are accessible. But once they're accessible, you have your kiosk moment, that 7 seconds where you better know what you're asking for or you're needing or you're going to give. But you will have everyone checking. And you know, if the pandemic subsides and there's a vaccine, then people start to go into their movement. But now people aren't on flights, people aren't on cars, people aren't on vacations. They are by their devices, and you have an opportunity to get mentors that you might not have thought you had an opportunity to reach. You have an opportunity to reach now.
Gotcha. Will you speak a little bit more about, you mentioned Magic, were there other mentors that you sought out, either on the court or in broadcast or in your life right now as a business owner?
Yeah, I think for me, I have people that I've mentored that became my mentor. Yeah.
Really?
And I have a good friend, Guy Oseri. And Guy Oseri is very big in the music and entertainment business. He ran Madonna's label. He has one of the, it's called Maverick, and he has one of the biggest businesses in terms of artist management, from Sting to Alicia Keys to whomever. And then he's huge in the tech world. So he's one of the first investors of Spotify and Pandora and Uber. So he and Ashton Kutcher has this big fund in terms of that they do. But I knew him when he was 18 years old. He was sleeping on my couch and I was mentoring him at 18.
No way.
I ran into him in Los Angeles, and my job now is to analyze players. But I think my job in life and what a purpose I have is I'm able to analyze people. Like I'm able to kind of identify people who are going to be great, even though it's not me or I might not have anything to do with it. I'm like, he's got it. She's got it. Like, and I can tell you the long list of people who slept on my couch that are now very successful and at a very young age. And he's one of them. And so I was his mentor in a sense. Like he was trying to start out, and I just told him one day, I said, look, you're gonna be great. I don't know how and when, but the hours you keep in the music industry, I can't keep as a basketball player. I was still playing at the time. So I was like, this is something that you could do, but everything that I see, just keep going. And years later, he said that was a conversation that I had that no one had really told him that he could be that successful. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But I was only 25 at the time, 26. So I'm just talking, as a peer more than as a mentor. Years later, Jet Academy, investments, some of the things that he's mentoring me about. And so, so some of my mentors some people I mentored have become my mentor.
That's amazing. It just goes to show the virtuous cycle, if you will, right? If you do it well and you maintain those relationships, they pay back in probably innumerable ways.
Yes, and Ayana, you have to do them not to do them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Like
not to expect anything in return.
Yeah, I had no expectations when you're sleeping on my couch at 18.
Right.
No expectations, of the people that I meet. Even Magic, I was like, I had no expectation. I was just like, I'm working out with you because I'm trying to stay in shape. We're both getting old and we need to be in shape. Like I had no expectation to sit down and have it. but then, you know, we're driving to the thing and you hear all these conversations he's having. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. Talking to the president of this guy. Oh, wow, okay. President of Disney, Magic. All right, and you drive, like you're having president of UPS. Oh, okay. You know, see, like he's just having these conversations and you're like, okay, well, that's something I'm interested in. Let me figure out what I want to do with it. And that's part of learning who to find your mentor, again, is finding out what value that they have that you're trying to put into your life, not really what you have that you're trying to give to them so they can mentor you.
No, absolutely. And, you know, bringing this back uniquely to this audience who we know are minority or African-American, you know, small businesses, you know, it's a challenge to grow and scale right now in general. Is there any specific advice you'd give to those that are, you know, Black in particular? And can you share more about some of the challenges you've experienced that you think might have been due to your race and how you overcame them?
Well, that's a dual question. So I'll talk the part about small business and African American. I think when we're starting a business, the key is to be the best. It's not to have the biggest initially. It's not to have the most, but be the best. I didn't want to have, when I was in high school, I didn't want to have every college in the country recruit me. Maybe that is a goal later, but my goal was to be the best point guard in New York. Then being the best point guard in New York would entail every college in America offered me a scholarship. So if I was the best at it, then I'm going to be, if I'm the best in doing, if I have a nail salon, if I'm the best barber, if I'm the best, like I'm going to be sought after. I have a friend that was a barber and everyone at the time in New York City, the line would be out the door to just get a haircut. I don't need it now, but but to get out, because he was the best at, and this was back in the era when people used to cut designs in people's hair. He was the best at doing that. So everyone from every celebrity, everyone wants a haircut from him. So just being the best allows all of the other things to happen, not having everything and then trying to figure it out. Be the best. That is the goal, to be the best at it. Because when you're the best in the world at something or one of, everyone finds you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Once you're excellent, doors open up.
Oh, without question. And then as an African-American, I think that's where we've been deprived a lot of time because of, you know, obviously systemically, you know, emotionally, you know, we've been denied a lot of things. And so when we're in that route, we're trying to get it very quickly because we're accustomed to doors being closed, doors being shut, locks being changed. We're accustomed to that through our upbringing. So in the back of our minds at times, this is what I've noticed. I'm not speaking for everyone, just my circle of what I've noticed, that people have that fear. And then that fear also doesn't allow them to be inclusive or sharing of information or sharing of things, because we're like, oh my gosh, if I give this to John, then he's gonna open his shop and he's gonna be so, no, because the value is, like you said, you cannot be replaced because the value that you have is like, I need that information from John. And sometimes that's where the pivot is, because you become the pivot might be the small business owner to the small business consultant. It pivots because you have the information, but if you share it and you're open and you're inclusive, and you know, I think those are the things that we are just learning as African-American business owners a lot of times, because in every other area of our life, from police brutality to, you know, jobs to whatever it might be, we don't always get that when we're in the workforce. But we have to realize we're working for ourselves now, and we're not working in the force. And that's where I think we struggle.
given your fame and the success you've had, I think many would think that race hasn't necessarily been a barrier for you. But I'm assuming there's some story that you can share that you have had to overcome that, despite all that success.
Would you want the one to happen today, or you want to happen? No, I mean, there's the difference is like, I think race always plays a part. I think in terms of what you do, positively and negatively. I think there's no dismissing it because you're in certain sections of society doesn't discriminate against you because you're there. However, what it does allow me to do, though, it allows me to sometimes make a left turn around it. I don't always have to deal with it because I've afforded some success that I could bypass it certain days. But in terms of the thought process, it always happens. There are a lot of people I honor. I have a thing called it's my bottle theory. I'm going. You got to work with me with this one.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm working with you. Go ahead.
With me this one. So it's my bottle theory. So imagine this is a bottle, right? And you know what? This is not a bottle, but we can see. This is. So let's say if this is a bottle, and this is the bottleneck, and everything comes out of. I always say that as African Americans, we're put in a bottle, and so some of us are born at the back of this bottle, and some of us are born closer to the bottleneck. So it doesn't mean like you could be here and you could work as hard as you can, and doesn't mean you're gonna get out of that bottleneck. There's no way. Then some people don't have to work as hard because they work closer. Their parents have gone this, they have this, whatever it might be. They're going closer to the bottleneck. Then you have, imagine all these people stepping over each other, trying to get there. Like, so that's systematic and systemic racism that we deal with because we're in this bottle that most people are not going out. And then when a lot of times when we get out of that bottle, we don't break the bottle and let everybody out.
Yes.
We just keep going and like, okay, gone. So for me, that's my bottle theory. So it's not like anyone's better, anyone's stronger, anyone's faster all the time. Like, yeah, but in that bottle, you do have to work extra hard.
Yep.
And so for me, I think I just noticed as an African-American male, my excellence is at a high all the time. It's always at a high. And so that on my counterparts, they don't always have to be at a high. And so that to me is part of the issue, the magnitude of what goes on. And people are like, well, no, I don't see color. I don't do things. I'm like, well, that's not even a point, because you do, but that's not the point. But you do, but that's not the point, because I always say, I'm from New York. The first thing you said is, I'm from Queens. Yep. We have an affinity because we're from the same neighborhood. Yep. And when you said you're from Queens, I got a warm feeling in it. I was like, oh my God, that's my girl. It's the same thing with, if you're not around, if you only have in your boardrooms or people around you that only are people who look like you and like you, then you are going to have an affinity when you see them outside or inside of your workforce. And that is something that they don't see, that we see, that we're not that's what the good old boys club means. When they hear it, they think, oh, it's a negative. No, we're in a good old boys club. Me and you, we're from Queens. So there's things that we're going to talk about. We're going to have ideas about. There's buttons you can push with me. When I say, hey, Jamaica Avenue, did you go shopping on? See, you start smiling. Like, we know those things. And that's what a lot of our counterparts who aren't Black, they don't understand that they're doing. And then some of them are doing it on purpose. Let me take that back. Some of them are doing it on purpose. But some of them don't understand that that's where it stems from. It's just a familiarity of someone who is like-minded, like you, that you are more comfortable being around. And we're saying, no, get out of your comfort zone, because then when you get out your comfort zone, you're going to expand and you're going to feel comfortable around me. And I'm going to show you that I could do something just as good or better, not based on anything other than my intelligence and my work ethic and my workforce.
You know, the one thing that you said when you were talking about your bottle theory that I thought was really interesting is that sometimes people get out of the bottle and don't necessarily look back. Sounds like you've done a deliberate job of looking back. Can you share more about that? And then also for those that think they don't have anything to give back, you know, can you encourage or give some words of encouragement to those that say they do have something to give back and contribute back to the community?
Well, the contribution is again, is the mindset, not the skill set. So your contribution is there. Like you could tell me about the different, you know, struggles, the different obstacles that you pursue. Like that is valuable information that will allow me not to hit that hurdle. So it's important to share that. That is more valuable. You know, you tell me the road that's traveled. Like, give me an idea of the road that's traveled.
No, I understand. And then, you know, speaking of pivots, one pivot that you definitely made was from the basketball court to in front of the camera. That's a huge pivot, right? A different skill set, I'd like to think. Can you share more about what that was like?
Well, the difference between being an interviewer and an interviewee is like when I'm being interviewed as Kenny Smith, the player, like it's like, oh, I could talk as long as I want, I could do as much as I want, and they're gonna find the best 15 seconds. But when you're on the other side, you have to complete your thought process in 30 seconds. Can you complete your idea and wrap it up in 30 seconds and let everyone understand it? So there's a different mindset. Fortunately, as a point guard, that was one of the skill sets that I had. As a point guard, I'm able to talk to my team and go, boom, 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 we need this. Okay, Hakeem, you're gonna run to the box. Otis Thorpe, you're gonna run front. We're gonna have Vernon Maxwell set the pick. I'm gonna be able to elaborate that in 30 seconds and we're gonna be good. That was just a skill set you need as a point guard. So my verbal skills helped me in television.
You know, I never thought about that, but yeah, I guess being the point guard, you're vocal. You are the team voice.
Ayanna, I run AAU basketball teams as well. 12-year-old kids, 10. Well, I've been doing it. My brother started it. I've been doing it. And I had a parent that was, we won a game. It's an 11-year-old team. We won a game by like 35 points. Demolished this team. Parent comes up to me and said, hey, Kenny, my son didn't play enough. So my first instinct was, well, I'm a two-time champion. You should never even be talking basketball with me. But that was my first instinct, but I held back. I was like, and we won by 35 and I'm coaching and I don't have to be here if I don't want to, but I'm doing it, you know, all of those things ran through my mind. And I said, no, but this is a teaching moment.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay. I said, his name was Johnny. I said, Johnny didn't play today. We won by a lot of points, but he didn't play maybe as much as you would like. I said, but you're missing the point. And he's like, what's the point? I said, well, Johnny has a skill set that no one else on the team has. I said, when Johnny says, I say, Johnny, go get the team stretched before the game. Okay, get the guys on the layup line and start. And they'll all listen to Johnny. So every time Johnny says, okay, quiet in the huddle, let's listen, everyone quiets. He has a skill set of leadership that I'm allowing him to have. That's gonna fall way out basketball. But you're worried about the 3 extra minutes that I didn't play him today, instead of seeing that how I'm empowering him to be a great leader. So we could talk basketball and I could tell you how to get him better, or we could talk about how to keep him being a leader. And she was like, no, we'll keep the 3 minutes. And so I think that's important to know. And that's like, as a person, I think it's important to know, again, what you're trying to get out of the situation. I've been not in basketball as a player longer than I've been a player. So, you know, I've been in basketball, but I have not played. I've only played a decade. I've been in television 2 decades.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. You know, I have to say, what's interesting about what you just shared is kind of having a sense of self, where your strengths and your weaknesses are, and being able to apply those, and recognizing when that moment is afforded to you, kind of.
Oh, your question, because, and I told them then, and I don't know if I added that, I said, there's corporations that don't have people like that
Right.
can't get people to move. That is a quality that will take him further than anywhere else. And that's what we need to develop instead of his left hand dribble. Like, let's develop more of that.
Right. And that gets back to like your point of differentiation as an entrepreneur, kind of like you said, what do you do differently and do it the best? Right. So that kind of comes.
What do you do with the best? And I think that, again, going back to African American, being Black in this country, like a lot of times we lose sight of those things because we've been so accustomed to hoping that it's a microwave, like, you know, but life is about baking. Like, you can't keep looking in the oven. It's not gonna, like, it's about baking. And that's where, you know, we've never been afforded that opportunity either, you know, to bake. And so that's another comment for another day, maybe, but we haven't been afforded to bake. And that's why I think a lot of times we're in that mindset.
That makes sense. You know, so I want to switch tones up a little bit and have a little fun rapid fire with you.
Okay.
You're good with that. So, okay. So tell us your proudest moment on the basketball court.
My first game in college.
Really?
My first college game. You know, when you're in high school, you play in front of a lot of people, but, you know, I'm in New York, you know, school, you know, got what, 1,500 is like one of the biggest schools, 1,500 people. And then I went to the University of North Carolina, and, you know, I played with some great players, a guy named Sam Perkins, a guy named Brad Daugherty. They were NBA All-Stars and champions. Some other, what's his name? Michael Jordan. He was pretty good at baseball at one time, you know. So I played with some pretty good players. And so my freshman year, they were all on a team, and we're going out. You know, when you practice in an empty arena.
Yeah.
And I come out and I'm leading the team out, and the band is going, and cheerleaders are flipping, and and I come out and I look up and I see it. I even got chills as I see it, and I see everyone rise up. And I'm like, wow, I made it. Like 20,000 people, like coming out as you're coming out of that tunnel. For the first time, I didn't visualize that. I didn't see it because, again, it was the first game. And that's when I was like, yeah, I made it. That was my best moment as a basketball player.
Oh, that's awesome. So on the other side of that spectrum, what's your greatest disappointment?
Playing? Man, is this arrogant? I don't have many, but I'm trying to think. That
just means you've taken lessons learned from them.
Yeah. I've lost games, but my biggest
Nothing stings when you look back on it and you're like, oh, if only we made that shot. Or
no, I mean, nothing stings. I mean, I've had a lot of losses. They all sting, but in terms of like disappointment, like disappointment comes from lack of preparation and lack of effort. And I've always felt that sometimes when I lost, I was like, man, he's better than me, man. Like today they were better. Like, but I didn't feel, I felt the sting of losing, but I don't feel a sting of disappointment. You know?
That's a great, honestly, that's a great thing in and of itself, especially as entrepreneurs are trying to figure out how to rebound. To your point, there's a difference between accepting disappointment because someone was just better than you that day versus, you know, feeling like you weren't up to the occasion. You know,
right. If you didn't prepare, you didn't, you know, you didn't put the work in, you didn't do the research, you didn't know the area of field that you're going in. If you didn't know that, you know, they sell different types of hair in different places, and you know what I mean? Like, and you sell hair as a living, and like that, you should be disappointed. You really should. But if you research the stuff, you found the best pricing, you found the best people that were in your area, you worked your tail off. That's what I've only been around people like that, honestly, because of the level I played at. So I've never really felt disappointed. I just felt the sting of losing and like, you know, like that's still like those hurt, but I don't know about disappointment.
No, that's great. Honestly, I'm going to take that lesson. I like that. That's a great mindset. I guess it's a championship mindset. There you go.
I guess
Right?
so.
Full circle. There you go. That explains it. So Kenny, I think we're almost at time here. So any last comments or thoughts for the audience?
Well, I know that, recently I've been in the news about the walk-off.
Yes.
So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that before we head
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Please.
Basically for those who didn't know, I walked off the set of TNT basically to stand in unity with social injustice and what the players were doing as well. And, it got a lot of attention. And people say, why did you do it? I said, well, it wasn't something that I pre-thought of prior to going into it. It was actually a buildup of the day. I started, I was talking to my son, my oldest son, I have two, and I have 3 daughters and 2 sons. And I was talking to my oldest son who was at University of North Carolina. We were talking about, I said, man, something doesn't feel right. I should just do something. The Milwaukee Bucks that day had said they weren't going to play. I said, maybe I might not talk for a segment, or I might not do something for a segment. And then I was like, I don't know. Then I said, I don't know if I'm going to do that. But I just didn't feel right. So then he's like, well, whatever you do, just, make sure you have it in your mind. I said, that's the thing, I don't have it. So I drive to the arena and everything, what made me do it? Everything felt normal. I walked in, the producer was there, the same person was there picking that up, same person who takes your food order. I was like, today's not normal. Today's not normal. I'm not gonna be here if it's normal. And that's when I decided to join the march instead of talk about it.
Ooh.
And so I was like, that day was too normal for me. And I didn't want it to be normal. And I didn't think it should be normal.
So that's such a big statement made. And obviously there's some athletes, Colin Kaepernick comes to mind, that's made some statements and, really asking for, solidarity in the movement. How else are you giving back above and beyond just, that one day when you walked off? Like, how are you lending your voice to the cause, if you will? Well,
I think one, it starts at home, but then and I'll get back to that part, at the home front. But I'm part of with Deion Taylor and Robert F. Smith we started a thing called Be Woke, Be and Vote, Be Vote. So it's a voting process. That was early in the process, so that was big. And identifying people to get into the habitual nature of voting, which will, if you vote for the president, then you might start voting for your locally, you start voting, and it becomes a habit, the same way as like working out. So it's a mental workout more than physical. Also with my son, I have another one who's 12. And that day I walked off, it was late and I didn't know if he saw it. So I FaceTimed him, but I was like, man, it's gonna be late. And I talked to my older kids because I knew they'd be up, they stay up all night. I knew they'd be up. So we talked about it and I'm like, man, I haven't talked to Malloy. And then I have an 8-year-old daughter who maybe you can hear screaming in the background.
I was about to say, are those the young voters that are in the background?
Young voters in there. So they didn't, maybe they hadn't heard. So as soon as I FaceTime Malloy, he's 12, he's doing this. And I said, I'm doing something right at home, because he got it. I didn't have to say anything. He understood what I said. He's like, yeah, me and my friend Jack. He was like, yeah, your dad is so cool. Now, granted, Jack is a 7th grade white kid that lives in our neighborhood and says, man, you tell your dad. And he said, he and Jack, we were high-fiving. So then the thought process of seeing Jack and my son high-fiving as I walked off was the reason I did it.
That's amazing. And I got to say, I'm a parent. I have 7-year-old twins. And there's not a day when you're not like, I hope I'm doing something right here. And, you obviously want them to be excellent at whatever they do, consistent with what we talked about, but you really want them to be good people, Yeah. And so to
that's
hear
it.
that,
Again, but like I said, that image of what we're trying to do is like, we're not asking for more. We're not asking for less. We're asking for the same opportunity. And then I could just see those 2 kids,
right,
same opportunity. And that's what I was like, I'm starting at home. That's where you start.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You're modeling that behavior by showing that with the platform you have, you are in an opportune position to kind of make a bigger statement, a louder statement, but for all of us to applaud while we're home,
Right.
represent,
Yeah.
you know? So
Queens.
that's awesome. Yes, exactly. Queens, go Queens love. So, you know, I think that takes us to our time, Kenny. It's been such a pleasure having you here. I know you've inspired and motivated so many SMBs just hearing your story. And honestly, it's been great to learn more about you and really get a sense of like what makes you special. And I think that will carry over very well throughout this interview. So thank you. I'm an even bigger fan, and I'm inspired myself. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us today.
Well, thank you. Anytime, you know, a lot of subjects, a lot of people in business. You know, there's a lot more stories. You know, I'll go into my Jordan stories and Shaq stories and Charles stories next time I come on.
Yes, yes, that makes it a must for part 2.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for your time and your incredible leadership in the community. UPS is committed to partnering with organizations like the National Urban League to support small and medium businesses by providing the right tools, support, and solution to not just survive, but succeed. Another way we can partner is through virtual consultation. Connect one-on-one with our team and learn how the services and solutions available to you. Access this through other resources, including our webinars through our landing page, ups.com/NUL. So really excited. And I will say personally to all those entrepreneurs out there, UPS couldn't be more honored to be your partner in the journey. Do know we are invested in your success. And so we're working hard to make sure that we support African-American owned businesses by giving you access to our solutions and our resources. So we have a team over here ready and able to support you. So please reach out.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Parham, and I'm the director of the Entrepreneurship Center for the Urban League of Greater Atlanta. It's my pleasure to welcome you to a very special panel discussion today presented by the National Urban League in conjunction with our partner, Courvoisier Cognac. I have a panel of experienced entrepreneurs, executives, artists, influencers, and community leaders with me today to discuss what we call our new normal. Now successfully to retool your strategic marketing in a post-COVID. The goal of today's discussion is to give you the tips and tools that you're going to need that's going to help you hone your business skills and navigate some of the real-time challenges that you're facing as small business owners and entrepreneurs. So just introducing myself, I'm going to introduce the entire panel. My name is Mark Parham. As the Director of Entrepreneurship for the Urban League of Greater Atlanta and a small business development expert for over 25 years, I've helped thousands of people on how to achieve their goals of growing a successful business. So I'm going to introduce each panelist. Luigi, welcome to the panel.
My name is Luigi Villasenor, also Ru. I am the founder, creative director of Rude. We are global luxury streetwear brand. We distribute to almost every luxury stores, and I run an amazing e-commerce platform. And I'm also multidisciplinary disciplinary artist.
All right, thank you. Next panelist is Al Bazir. Welcome.
How you doing? My name Al Basir Holly. I'm a contemporary artist, and a lot of my art is based on my childhood memories and growing up in nostalgia. And I just want to, talk to the people and help them understand how to go forward with a business in this day and age successfully and unconventionally.
All right, thank you, Al. Our next panelist, Chris Roy.
Hey, what's up, Mark? How you doing? I'm Chris Roy. I run the Lifestyle Entertainment Group, high-end concierge service business, and we also do special events out of the Los Angeles area. I have a wealth of social media experience working for years at Revolt TV, and I also have several business ventures. So I'm very excited to share my knowledge with you today and the rest of the people.
All right, thank you. Brooke, welcome to the panel.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Brooke Mackey. I am the founder of the Mackey firm here in Chicago, and I'm also a social media influencer. I deal with promotions, curating events, social media relations, and just like many of you all, I am also a small business owner looking to re-innovate and create during these difficult times.
All right, thank you, Brooke. And I want to give a great thanks to all of you for joining us today and being here with us to share your knowledge and experience. Each of you has a very unique story to share, and I have no doubt the entrepreneurs and small business owners who are joining us today will learn much from each of you. So let's jump right into it. It's no secret that COVID has changed the very aspect of both life and business this year, especially for Black and minority business owners, the new way of communicating with people. Through our extensive work in entrepreneurship centers throughout the country, the Urban League has gotten a pretty good sense of the issues that small business owners, and digital marketing is one of the biggest areas where people need guidance. If you do not have a digital marketing strategy right now, you are at a disadvantage. Or maybe you have one, but it's not working. It's not driving traffic. It's not getting you new clients. It's not breaking through all the noise. The good news is that it's not too late. There are some simple ways to be more mindful and effective with your digital marketing approach in today's environment. So Luigi, we're going to start with you. When you were starting your business, as you said, on your mother's laptop, not your garage, your mother's laptop, right?
My mother's laptop.
All right.
Yes,
what were you most concerned about?
I think, I've always had a passion for design and art in general. And I think in the beginning, my first concern was the fact that that it was it was the forefront of the digital frontier. So I wanted to make sure that my product was out and it reached the audiences that I could and, project that I wanted. I think it was very clear to me that I needed to be very focused on the craft before anything. And yeah.
Tell me something, Luigi, before I let you go to the next person. What kind of platforms did you use to build your brand on social media, website, and things like that?
Yeah, well, so first I was able to, purchase a domain through GoDaddy, as most people do. And, through that, in the beginning, we spoke about, you introduced something about plans. And, I've kind of done something a bit not usual, is where I, began the company with a firm vision of where I wanted to take it, but not so much a plan. And, so for me, I bought the domain, and, there's so many other things that you need to deal with legalities, with, IPs and, trademarking and all of that. And these are things that I learned through the process. But, the first thing that I did was, purchase a GoDaddy. I was able to work through, I think it was like a Microsoft web developing website. And through that, I created something that, I thought was presentable enough, but I knew had room for improvement. And through that, I was able to, engage a few followers, a few customers over time.
Good deal. Now, no matter what kind of business you're running, in order to make it work, if you need more than a product or service, you got to have, as we just said, you got to have a plan. A lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners trying to market themselves online, they're doing it without a strategy. Chris, I'm going to go to you. You have a lot of experience with brand building, so I'm sure you've had similar conversations with your clients. Why is strategy so important?
I think strategy is so important because you really have to understand your business goals and have a bird's eye view of the operation. So once you know your end goal going into the situation, you can develop a marketing strategy that's tailored to that. You have to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? You have to define, where you want to start your marketing strategy, what product positioning you want to do, and kind of what key points do you want to touch on emotionally with your consumer so that way they can build a connection with you. I think that it's also very important to differentiate your business in the marketplace. You have to determine what makes you special, why that makes you special, whether it's your level of experience, whether it's a nuance within the community as far as your niche goes, whether it is your attention to detail, the way you take care of your customers. I think that those differentiating factors really allow you to make your mark in the landscape.
What kind of tools did you use or do you use that you can give out to entrepreneurs that kind of help them along this journey?
I think some tools that you can use, especially when marketing your business online, is Canva. So Canva is a dope tool. You don't have to necessarily use Photoshop, which is very technically sound, but you can go on there, create some graphics and templates and designs that you can post on your social media. You can use Buffer if you wanted to do some scheduling across your various platforms, as well as Squarespace, which is a really dope site that allows you to use templates to build websites.
Good deal. Thank you. As you're doing all this, it's very important to figure out what your position is in the marketplace. Are you a low-cost alternative in your industry? Are you a specialist? These details matter. And the one thing I really want our listeners to take away from today's discussion is that one size does not fit all, okay? Not one strategy works for everyone. You got to develop your own. You have to understand your industry and how it works and how what you do makes you stand out and how do you communicate that. So Alvazier, I'm going to go to you right now. As a visual artist, your content on social media and the messages that you communicate are critical. Can you tell us how content plays into your digital marketing approach? How do you find the right audience? How do you get your message across?
Well, thanks, Mark. For me, it's basically just been honesty has been my marketing strategy and slow cooking, so to speak. From the beginning, I always believed that if you just keep going, stay consistent. Like I vowed to paint something every single day until the day I died since 2013. So no matter what, it could be on an iPad, it could be, on a little piece of paper, it could be on a door, whatever it is, I do something artistic every day. And then I make sure that what's necessary, I show it on my social media platforms. And I believe that it just helps with the connection with the consumer that you're reaching. Because to be quite honest with you, just being completely honest, this wasn't like a dream of mine. I'm just an artist. I always done art. I did music. So I didn't really think about it along those lines of like, who should I target? Who should I, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of just did it honestly and truthfully. And then I started to see that people were following. And then I started to pay attention to that. And then I started to be more intentional with my delivery on social media.
I think one thing you said that's important, we use the big called commitment. You're doing something every day. And I think as all the panelists will agree with me that you have to be committed to your strategy.
Have to.
You have to. You do something every day and make sure that you're consistent with your strategy.
Yeah.
You're not coming in and out. So people see you there every day. When I wake up, I was there, put something out again.
Yeah. And even when it doesn't feel good, it doesn't always seem like it's working. It doesn't always seem like your messaging is getting across, but you got to still do it and keep going.
Yeah, and I think next, Chris, you got to be authentic and embody your code, in the events that you produce and the things that in the past and the way you carry yourself, it's very important to present yourself in the right way. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think honesty is a key word here. And, how do you build an honest strategy? I think that, a big piece of that is just, honoring your code and really embodying what you represent across all your platforms. So that it's a fluid lifestyle, and it's not like you're stepping into one mode when you're doing events, another mode when you're producing products, another mode, but it's just a fluid extension of who you are, and it just translates across media.
Well, right now is 2020 is the perfect time to redefine your marketing strategy, increase your focus on digital tactics. So let's get down deep here. Let's dig a little deeper, Chris. I'm gonna go back to you, and let's tell us how that works. We get a lot of questions about this bad word or the bad acronym SEO, search engine optimization. How does that work? What's the secret about that?
So for me, I believe the secret to SEO is how your business ranks. So Google is the top search engine in the world. And so you want to make sure that when people are searching your business online, whether you bake cakes, you produce events, you design clothes, when they type up what you do, you want to make sure that your brand ranks within the top 5 on Google so that people are able to search it, figure out what you do. And the best way to do that is to make sure that your brand is present across every platform they can possibly be on online, from your social media platforms, such as your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, LinkedIn, Yelp, things of that nature. Just allow people to search your business and really connect with what you're doing.
So how can a business owner maximize on this? And how can they tell, what tools should they use to know that? I mean, you mentioned Google coming up first. What are there tools that we can use to show us, how effective we are with digital marketing?
Yes, there are definitely tools. I think that the number one tool that you should use, as I'm speaking about Google, is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics will break things down for you, let you know what keywords are popping up, let people know what people are searching on your site and where they're going. So that way you can know whether you need to adjust your strategy, change your keywords to, make an impact in the space that you're in. So for example, the keywords for me within my business would be like nightlife, luxury, guest lists, things of that nature. So I want to make sure that those keywords are popping up when people search for things within the Los Angeles area.
Some of the things that people forget, and I want you to forget this, using email has become very important because some of the highest ROI for small business is with email, and a lot of people sleep on it. Are you all using email for your marketing and social media strategy?
I definitely use
Yes.
email.
For sure.
Yeah, why don't you kind of give me an example of how you're using email?
So for me personally, I use MailChimp a lot. And so the cool thing about MailChimp is you can set up templates based on what you want to send out. So whether it's me advertising a property, I have a certain template for that, or me advertising a new events that's coming out, or a restaurant, I have different looks for different things. And so it just allows you to plug in various things and market to different people in different groups so that your target hits the market.
We're using the right tools, but social media now is key. Brooke, as an influencer, you're very familiar with this space. What would you tell the business owners who may not understand the value of social media?
Sure, Mark. With social media today, a lot of people, are still old school or old fashioned. They may not look at your website at first. They might go to your social media page. And I think it's important to build that platform how you want to present to your audience. You don't have to have 90,000 followers or 1 million followers to get your message across to your audience or your demographic when it comes to social media. As long as you're true and authentic about your product and what it is that you're advertising or promoting, then the message will get across. For me, as an influencer, I've been able to use that skill to help other businesses, small businesses build, whether it's a fitness line or it's a boutique, hair products, promotions, events. Sometimes you can bargain with people, I would say you trade a service. If your business is, graphic design, you connect with someone that may need graphics, or you can exchange, services for, whatever it is that you're like advertising. Like for me, I bargain with a graphic designer and they may need promotion for people to get, they want, sales in that area, but I may need graphics for events, or I need graphics for, whatever it is that I'm, promoting at the time. So I do feel that with social media, it allows you to build relationships, not necessarily physically, because even in this pandemic right now, we can't do a lot of on-hand networking. So social media is now that tool and that platform that you can use to create that, create that environment. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to say, hey, do you need a brand ambassador? Or don't be afraid to say, hey, can I promote your event in exchange for a post or anything like that? And I feel that a lot of times people get intimidated by social media because they feel that, oh, if, my page isn't popping, or, you know what I'm saying, I don't have, a lot of likes, then nobody is paying attention to me.
Gotta have those likes. Gotta have those likes.
Yeah, that's not true. For me, I know people that may have bought followers or bought likes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not saying that that's not a tool to get traffic, but for me, I've always been true to the game. I feel that when you're true and you're authentic, then you're going to get those, you're going to get the attention that you need. You're going to, if you plant those small seeds, then you will reap the benefits. So as a small business owner, don't be afraid to get out there and engage. And a lot of times people aren't, so sociable. So social media is a way to send a message, without necessarily having to, see your reaction in your face. And, if you get 100 no's, as they all say, you're going to get a yes. So, stay consistent, stay engaged, and you will reap those benefits. So don't be afraid to go out there and step out and, take pictures of your product, take pictures of what it is that you're advertising, and you will get that traffic sooner or later.
No, I think it's important to realize that I know people whose days are ruined if they don't get enough likes. So that's
true. That's true.
I mean, their whole day is ruined. So Chris, tell me something, Chris. When you're doing a lot of events, you got to partner with these influencers. So how important is the right partnership?
I think a great partnership is key. Alignment is so important when working with brands, and finding things that represent you, and also you align with their core values. So I think that you have to be an extension of the brand and really embody what it stands for. Take Cavassier, for example. I've personally been a fan of their brand for a long time, and they're elite positioning. So for me to be proud to be a Cavassier brand ambassador was just a perfect match. I aligned perfectly with what I was doing. I didn't have to step outside of myself to produce events with purpose, kind of connect people. And so it's just been a dope experience.
So you really got to find someone that kind of matches your identity. And I think it's very important that if you're finding an influencer or a product that is something that you really believe in, it's not just something for the dollars. It's something that you believe in. So yeah, I think so, because people will see your commitment and your passion. That's great advice. Luigi, I want to hear from you on this topic as well. I imagine that COVID-19 has changed a lot of your business plans, with many events being canceled. How did you adapt to that?
Prior to COVID-19, I think we had an extreme uphill ride and just, such a bull market for us when we were doing all these activations and I was traveling everywhere in this world. And, I think that was something we got accustomed to. But now more than ever, we talk about authenticity within the business and all that. And I come from a product side. I think as much as I love metrics and understanding, who we reach out, who we reach to and all that, I think now more than ever, with everyone ramping up marketing strategies, how to communicate more with people and all that, it's really about the romance in the product now. To me, it's about taking the audience in a journey and kind of showing the day-to-day, as well as utilizing your social media as well to, the same way, that Chris was saying about allegiance with, not allegiance, but like, yeah, I guess allegiance, so to speak, with, yeah, with different products.
Speaking of your product, you just launched your latest campaign or latest collection 100% online. How'd that go for you?
It's been wonderful for us. We've been seeing a 30-40% increase in our business. You know, partially a big part of my business has been wholesale, but again, with everyone kind of you know, jumping in the same line, I think we wanted to create something different, and we wanted to really speak to our niche audience and create sort of, you know, exclusives with them. You know, we're now releasing a holiday product that can, you know, integrate sort of this at-home experiential thing with them, where we're able to, you know, screen print at home, or we're trying to figure out ways to really bring in the community, but in a mobile sense.
Gotcha. Good deal. So when you leverage social media to promote your brand, it's important to measure the performance of your practices to show if it's actually working for you. You know, which posts receive the most engagements, which posts gain the most clicks. These kind of questions help you identify the right strategy, things you may need more work on. But your engagement metrics are game changers. We're not saying you got to focus on them, but they are very, very important. Al-Razir, could you describe your approach to marketing, your artwork?
Well, with my artwork, like I said earlier, nostalgia is a huge part of everything I do, down to the name of my first series of art was called Access Childhood Memories. And I believe that that's our only form of time travel, personally, is through nostalgia. And, you know, depending on what you're thinking about, the hairs raise up on your body, you know, things of that nature. So what I do is on social media, for instance, I'm having a show with my girlfriend, Christina Martinez, November 13th. And it's a joint show. So we wanted to show a bunch of clips of love scenes in movies that we all remember over the years, and at the perfect scene, showing that with our logo for the show over top of it. So they instantly connect, instantly understand the story that we're telling through stories that have been told. And I believe that's the way we were able to, and now like RSVP is ridiculous, and you know, it's all kind of crazy stuff going on with it. But I know firsthand that it was solely and strictly connected to that marketing strategy, which was just me and her being genuine. You know, like we love movies and love those kind of love stories. So we just like, let's post little clips of that, you know. So you got to keep it organic. You got to keep it honest. And marketing is fun to me. Like, you know, it's also an art. You know what I mean? So I try not to get too metric-y, so to speak, and all that kind of with it. I just kind of follow, you know, my heart, honestly, and she does too, and it works. And it's still very much like, you know, strategic marketing, though, at the same time, organic.
Gotcha. You know, let's get to the bottom line, though. You know, we're all walking in our purpose, working in our passion, but the bottom line is converting people that are following us into customers.
Yes.
Making money, okay? And I think it's important to realize that e-commerce is important. Some of you out there, you may think it's very difficult or it's very expensive to get started on the website. You may feel like you don't have a product or service that lends itself. Now is the time to rethink this and get creative. You heard today different ways of getting the same thing accomplished, getting customers, influencers, partners, right partnerships, the right tools. But you can simply add a gift card component to make any product or service to, you know, to drive people coming back to you. But if you want to learn more about these topics, we encourage you to utilize the resources provided by your local Urban League chapters. We have coaching and training that can help you figure this out. Because let's face it, if you could do it by yourself, you'd be doing it. And as you've heard today, everyone on this panel worked at it and figured out a way to do it. But I'm sure each of you went to someone and said, How do I do this? How do I do that? So don't be afraid to ask for help. But this has been a really great conversation, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. But before we close this panel out, I want to do a quick round robin Q&A with you about marketing 101, the basics, and the lessons you learned throughout your careers. So these are some of the questions we received from our audience members. So Luigi and Alvazir, Luigi, we'll start with you. What's the most important lessons you've learned about marketing?
I think the most important lessons I learned from marketing is there's no clear one-way path to it. And the key is to really be versatile and also make the right adjustments when mistakes are made, or when you feel that something isn't working. I think that's the beauty of it, is the mistake, and you're able to see what works and what doesn't. And also, there's also no clear, there's no really a clear fine line on how to start. So don't be afraid to make the mistakes, and presentation is key.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things you're saying is be ready to adapt forever.
Yeah.
You know, meaning that one way is not going to do it, just go another way. You're going the wrong way, go another way, but just keep
I certainly made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
I certainly made a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
So, but that's what you talk about, that consistency into your passion. Alvazir, your biggest lesson?
Just to reiterate, like, you know, it's like Ru said, there's really no set way to do it. You got to be very honest with yourself and others, I believe. And, you know, it's something that you should try to make it fun if possible. Look at it as another art form, you know what I mean? Like another medium. And just try to, you know, like a lot of times I feel like in business, people act like they don't know what a consumer is because they're on the other side of it now. Like, as if you don't buy things, you know what I mean? Like as if you don't, as if you don't know what draws you to products and things of that nature. So I know that people like to say this, and I don't truly believe this, that the consumer is dumb, because I don't believe that I'm dumb. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I try to give them that respect and be thoughtful, and, you know, make it very detailed and make it understood in a certain way where they appreciate the product that they're getting from me, no matter what it is. Because I also have a clothing line that I partner with my partner, Rich Hilfiger, called Tango Hotel. So we have to do different things for that as well. That's not just like my art, where it can just be more organic and just free flowing. The clothing side is a different beast. You know what I mean? So the idea is just to be honest and straight up.
All right, thank you. Chris, I'm going to kick this one to you. What are the most common mistakes that business owners and entrepreneurs make when it comes to digital marketing?
I think one of the common mistakes that people make is just not respecting the importance of having a digital presence. I think in today's world, as phenomenal as you are in person, you got to make sure that you translate that energy online. Because there's so many more people online, you know, than it can ever connect with you in person. So just being able to open that marketplace up for you gives you a ton of opportunities. In addition to that, I think that showing your process is a great tool. You know, nothing is perfect. So if you always show a polished, finished product, sometimes people can't connect to you. You have to humanize your brand and really allow people to see how you develop and make something. And as they develop that connection with you, they'll support because they're buying into you as a person, which also translates into support for your brand.
I find that a lot of times if we wait for perfection, we'll never put it out there. I think
it's so important.
I think people like to see that, hey, he makes mistakes too, or they're not doing it right. You know, it gives them more confidence of being able to step out there. You know, I think
more from your mistakes.
You said what?
I think you learn more from your mistakes.
Yeah, I agree.
Without question.
Without question. So none of you had any tissue out or anything, so you might not have made too much mistakes. So you seem like you did pretty good.
I think showing your process and showing your journey is another marketing tool in itself.
Yeah,
you know, seeing the process and seeing how this person went from point A to point B, you know, that's a testimony in itself. And I feel like a lot of success these days, especially with going from reality TV and, you know, just being able to be relatable is huge these days, because I myself, I would rather buy, or I would rather be interested in the person that I can relate to more than someone that is just putting up a facade or a front, or just doing this because they want to make money.
Brooke, you mentioned the word success. So what's the telltale signs of a successful campaign, marketing campaign? What are the signs?
Engagement, traffic, profit, you know, what your short-term goal, your long-term goal, you know, did I reach what I wanted to reach in this time frame? If I didn't, then what can I do to make changes? You know, for myself, it's during this pandemic, you know, me becoming a first-time mom, with being an influencer and just things changing altogether. I'm used to being more hands-on. I'm used to doing things a certain way. And because of what has happened within the last year, it forced me to think outside of the box. It forced me to be like, okay, well, what can I do next? How can I stay relevant? How can I stay, you know, on top of my game? And, you know, with being an influencer, especially with a brand, Cavassier, you know, I'm used to doing clubs. I'm used to doing nighttime experiences. But now that we're moving into a different realm of even contact, how do you keep creating? How do you make things more elevated? How do you stay on top? You know, and I think when it comes to success, you know, you have to be consistent. You can't be afraid of trying new things, especially in this time. I feel that people are more compassionate to failure. You know, yeah. I feel that it's okay to make a mistake, because in these uncertain times, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So just taking that leap of faith and doing something different and doing something that, you know, doesn't necessarily, there is no one way of success. There's no one size fit all. Do what's true to you. Do what stands out to you. If whatever is unique to your gift or whatever is unique to your business, highlight that. You know, I think, you know, looking into what's next, or what is the next trend, you know, do your research on whatever it is that you're advertising. And I feel that would help the success of your business and your growth. And, you know, just stand out, do something different, do something that you haven't done before. Right. And I believe that will help your success, and you never know what the reaction will be. I did something different this year and people loved it. You know, I did something that was not my normal. You know, I start doing events, or I start promoting different things that reach more of a wider audience. Now that I am a mother, I can relate to moms, you know, in different scenarios. Whatever your business is, take what's true and what your own experience is, and your success will come. So don't be afraid to get out there. And again, the profit will come, the engagement will come, and the traffic will come. You just got to stay the course.
Yeah, and I think we all will agree is the phrase "embrace the challenges." Each of you has demonstrated today some of the challenges, but you embraced them. You didn't run from them. And I think but sometimes you have to embrace these challenges with new tools, a new way of thinking. As you just said, Brooke, being very creative. Something new happened in your life. Now you've taken that and turned it into something. So I think, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, the digital strategy is important, but you have to have a personal strategy about embracing the challenges first. I think that's very important. So let's take that question, for each of you, kind of define success for you, because a lot of people, it means different things. And I'd be very curious to hear about how each of you define that. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. You know, success is a very important thing to people, but it's defined many different ways. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to go to each of you, but I'd like for each of you to define your version of success.
Success to me is freedom. And when I say that, I mean the freedom to do what you want to do what you love. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you can get paid to do what you love and use your gifts to make other people's lives better. And so that's my definition.
All right, that's good. Alvazir, how about you?
I mean, honestly, it's really much the same as Chris. Like, my art is, to me, not how many people buy the art, how many people see the art, smile, and have some kind of connection to it is a measure of success for me, because this is the first job I ever had where I felt free. As a recording artist, I didn't feel free. Once I made a hit, it was like, oh, you got to make another one. And, you know, and then that's not fun anymore. It's pressure and it's all these different things. So that wasn't fun to me. And I'm my own boss. I make what I want to make and hope that people like it. But like if somebody tell me they want to paint and that match their living room, they got the wrong guy. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. Like I do exactly what I feel and what connects with me. And I'm glad and blessed that people connect with it. But that's success to me.
Right. Luigi, what about you?
Mine would be completion while honoring your code, I suppose. Okay. So, you know, will I ever reach success? Maybe, maybe not. I think most importantly for me is setting goals above my goals and continuously reaching them, and really setting the bar really high for myself on who we can communicate to, who we can sell product to, most importantly, who could storytell to, you know, so whether we complete that, you know, the future will tell. But for now, I think for me, it's about growing a collective environment and a real firm storytelling at the same time.
Brooke, what about success? What does that mean to you?
Success for me, Mark, just as Luigi had said, is definitely about honoring your code. But what honoring your code means to me today is breaking generational curses, health, wealth, and just being the first to do it. So success for me is, you know, just being able to say, hey, I did that. Like for myself, I am a woman in a male dominated field. I've had success with that. That's success to me. Being able to be healthy, that's success to me. Eventually being able to continue to break generational curses that may have came down on my ancestry and creating at some point generational wealth. You know, a lot of times in our society, especially in the African American culture, we tend to just think about ourselves and not what for the next generation. So now that I'm a mother and I'm starting my family, generational wealth is that much more important, because when I'm not here, I would love for my children to already walk into something that I've paved the way for.
Thank you. I got one more question for all of you. You know, we talked about metrics, but how important, and I know a lot of us want to get all the likes and followers that we can. Let's talk about what it really takes to grow a business, is converting the customer. So you don't have to have a lot of customers, you just have to have the right customers. So Alvazir, I'm going to start with you, because I know that artwork, you may not have a lot, but you have the right customers.
Yeah. Like for me in the beginning, I didn't have a lot of followers at first. I still don't personally, as far as I'm concerned, but I never really paid attention to that. I just paid attention to like the actual people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this lady, Diane and John Scully, they share an Instagram. So that tell you how old they are and the type, and you know, they had like
Are you saying only old people use Instagram, or?
No. What I'm saying is they can care less. Like they're sharing the Instagram like as a married couple. You know what I mean? Like, they
No,
don't
that's
care.
Facebook. Only old people use Facebook.
They're not on there. But it wound up being the former CEO of Pepsi and the former CEO of Apple, the one who fired Steve Jobs, and he kind of helped propel my art into a different circle when it came to Art Basel and things of that nature in 2015. So like, for me, it was just that one little thing right there. Like, so I always try to tell people, don't get deterred by who following you, how many people following you, because it really only take one person to pay. So never stop what you're doing. Keep it going no matter who you think looking, because you don't know who's looking. It could just be that one person that see the consistency with you and like, you know what, I'm gonna give this person a shot. Like I got something for this person. You know what I mean? And I learned that like the right way.
Anybody else have any comments on that? You know, the number of people that are following you or actually engaging with you?
I have something to say. I think.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think it's really important. I think what Albert just said is very important. I think you have to also practice how you play. So no matter whether you performing in front of one person or 100,000 people, you got to bring that same energy, because it only takes that one person to take you to the next level. And I think when you keep that energy consistent, it's always going to pay forward.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. It doesn't really matter, but you got to play consistent. And you got to have integrity, and you got to have honesty. Go ahead, Brooke.
I think, you know, when developing your business, or, you know, this is your brand. You know, you have to look at yourself as a walking billboard for your brand, or whatever it is that, you know, you are influencing or you're marketing. So, you know, for Ruji, you guys have your clothing line. For, you know, Chris, you do your events, and Albus, there, your art. So when you walk out the house, that's who you are. You know, when people see you, they recognize you and your brand together. And I think when you have that authenticity about yourself, then when people are able to see you and see your brand at the same time, then that's when I feel like, again, going back to the question of success, that's when that's happening. That's happening for you. When people are able to, when people are able to relate to you and your brand together, then that's when I know, like, oh, if I go out and Mackey Firm, you know, or, you know, I think that's key. And those are tell signs of, oh, this is working.
Right. So basically, you are the brand.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, you are your brand.
All day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Whatever you represent, exactly.
In the grocery store, when you're standing on the corner.
No matter what.
No matter what, you are the brand. You
and
know?
Mark, can I say one thing?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I just want to tell the people looking that I think is very important, having success in a different space before, even killness. Like, not getting too high with the compliments and not getting too low with the criticism. You know what I mean? Like, keeping it kind of even kill. Like, I take the praise like I take the criticism, because I know it can switch in a blink of an eye. It's more hurtful if you build yourself up too high. You know what I mean? If you pay too much attention to it, like, it's very hurtful when the inevitable happens. You know what I mean? Then it's like, God damn, you know what I mean? So like, even killness. People, oh, I like your stuff. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate you. God bless. Oh, I don't like your stuff. Okay, cool. No problem. God bless. You know what I mean? Like, just keep it pushing. Yeah.
Don't be all sensitive, as they say.
I actually have a question for the guys or whoever want to answer. In your process or your journey, Ruji and Albus there especially, when you get to a point of saying, hey, I started off by myself, you know, seeing your vision come to light, and how was it when you first were interacting with like celebrities, and how do you form or keep those relationships? I know other small business owners might want to know, like, or, you know, they get excited by seeing, celebrity engagement and how you do that and, that sort of thing. So like, what's that process like? And did you reach out to them personally, or were they just attracted to your work through social media? Or
you want to go first, Ru?
I'm not taking your job.
Yeah, I'll go first. So when I started, when I started the brand, I had a set of samples, and I didn't really have inventory to give to anyone. And I think this is really this is really something, kids that are developing product now can learn from. It's in the beginning, I had no capacity or even the funding to gift people. So I stood with my vision, and I knew that no was going to get me further than a yes in the beginning. So, part of what I didn't really touch base on is having a 5-year plan and seeing like where your vision is further than, the short-term goals you have right now. So for me, when I created the product, I saw it as, even if it was just a t-shirt I sampled for, $5 or $20 or whatever it is, I saw it for what it was worth in my mind. So in my mind, it was, a $300 retail t-shirt that's being sold in globally everywhere. So when time, permitted and people were asking me, artists who are, generally given stuff for free on a day-to-day basis, it's hard. That's, when we talk about differentiating product from each other, maybe it's not just the message or the design or the price point. Sometimes it's just the feeling you give to the consumer, whether you are allowing them to come in or, I teach my guys all the time, there's something to be learned when you are not allowed to participate in something. It makes someone want to come in more. It's the same reason why when you have retail businesses having lines outside and they're only allowing 5 people to come in, it's not really just to, moderate. Well, now with COVID, I'm sure it's that, but not just to moderate the people within, but it's also to show the optics of having a line and making sure that people are, this giving this feeling that, you're not allowed to be in, and it makes someone want to buy more. So when I started, and I had, a couple friends of mine who are now like Grammy Award winning artists, when they're asking me for stuff, I was very honest with them that, this is all I've got and you've got to pay for this at that price that I saw it at, and mind you, I was taking the train, I was taking the bus to the train to go, do some styling gigs and all that. And they would ask me if they could just have it. And I had one set of this sample. So I had to tell them, I was like, look, man, if you buy it, you can have it. So then, that's how I was able to roll over this thing. And I want to just add on to this. Like, so I did this seminar at USC prior to COVID, and I was teaching them of this which is now really pre-sale that I came up with like a while back. I started my business with literally $50. And now globally, we are getting over quite a bit of money. And I was announced as 30 under 30 for Forbes. But if you have a clear vision on the product, you can ultimately sell that dream and vision to the people and they will buy into it. So when I created this product, I had one sample, I put it up on my website and, 3 months or whatever it was, nobody bought it. I was sitting in my room and I was like, oh my God, like, this is hard. This is harder than I thought. That's one lesson, is you can't expect people to love the product that you make or love the photo that you took or love the outfit that you took the same way you loved it. So you have to readjust. And I made some certain adjustments, which was, a bit of give take. So I was able to, provide some stuff and give it to the right people. And again, making sure that they align with the vision and, marketing it with artists that I think would, bring it to a certain caliber. So that I did that. And the product itself spoke in volumes, and in a blink of an eye, I made, 7 figures. And I remember crying in my sister's car and I was like, oh my God, I never thought I was able to do this.
That again, Luigi, is a testament to commitment. Alvazir, I know you have, you want to make real quick?
Yeah, it was basically I maintained the like my music industry relationships with, you know, from the Jay-Z's to the Pharrell Williams was the person who did my music in the beginning. So I always maintained these relationships because I always wanted them, even in music, I wanted them to be very genuine. And like I made sure that I kept it about learning about each other versus the job at hand. So like I feel like that's the way I cultivated and kept these relationships with people, because so then when the music slowed up and I went broke and I ain't had no money and I was trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do with my life. I know I ain't no bum, you know what I mean? So I'm like like trying to figure it out. Like what am I gonna do? I therapeutically start getting into my art, and then the same people who I nurtured and maintained these relationships with over the years, they became my first customers with the art. So that's exactly how it carried over. That's exactly how I maintained the relationships. And I believe that relationships are very important in general. So I take them very seriously. And whether you're a superstar or not, I take them very seriously, you know?
I want to thank all of you for your time and lending experience to today's panel. I want to thank you to Courvoisier Cognac for partnering with us for today's conversation. Speaking of Courvoisier Cognac, we're looking forward to the Cocktails and Conversations virtual networking event and happy hour following this discussion. If you haven't already registered, head over to nul.org for registration and information to join us. So please join us. You know, thank you for joining us today. If you have registered and you have a few minutes to spruce up a specially Courvoisier cocktail and get comfortable, get real comfortable, we'll be continuing these meaningful conversations with more entrepreneurs, influencers, and industry experts in that session. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of all of us on this panel and the National Urban League, we wish you success.